Hello, everyone. Blue Star Saber here once again to discuss a movie, and this time it is Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I am joined by James S Cassidy.
Hello.
Mhm. Now, let's see. The last time I had you on this channel, we were discussing, I suppose the original movie Free Guy.
Yeah.
Now, granted, some might argue it has the branding of Ryan Reynolds, but yeah, that's Ryan Reynolds. But heck, but still original movie. But yeah. Anyway, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Now, I figured, let's see. Now, I'll probably just come out the thing is, I never grew up with Ghostbusters. I never really was into never really got into it and all that stuff. My first, cinematic experience with the Ghostbusters was the 2016 Ghostbusters. And originally, I was not going to go see it, but a friend said, "You want to come to go to cinemas with me?" And I like going with the movies with him and all that stuff. So I figured, sure, why not? But after that, I didn't really get into it. But then, this new Ghostbusters came out, and I figured, you know what? Might as well try and get into the original Ghostbusters like I tried once before, just because this time it's actual direct sequel. So I figured, you know, so watch that, and I can see why the movie was liked. Granted, perhaps maybe I've become a bit too old to become nostalgic for it, but end up doing it. So I figured, then go see it in the cinema, and I enjoyed the film. But and I figured, let's see, and I know you, James, like Ghostbusters, and I figured, you know what? Let's see. If I decide to do a review of this movie, might as well get someone I know that is actually familiar with the Ghostbusters franchise to give the thoughts and all that stuff. So, why not?
Oh yeah. See, I've been around ever since the first Ghostbusters came out. I remember watching Ghostbusters 2 when that came out. And then we have so much of the Ghostbusters lore. Yeah, we got the 2016 one, but we also got um, comic books. We've got Ghostbuster comic books. There's Ghostbuster video games, and not just the crappy ones from the 80s and early 90s. But we actually got one on the Xbox that was pretty good.
Yeah, I think some people regard that as the unofficial Ghostbusters 3 or something, right?
Well, some people regard that one as Ghostbusters 3 because it was using elements of an old script idea
Fair enough.
for the original Ghostbusters 3.
Fair enough. Let's see. Now, sorry, go on.
Although it is funny when you if you go into the Ghostbusters comic books, there's so many crossovers. They have like Ghostbusters and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters and Transformers. There's Ghostbusters, and I think there was a Star Wars one at one time. They did a crossover with the cartoons and the live action Ghostbusters. They've had Ghostbuster. They have every single version of the Ghostbusters in one comic book as a massive crossover.
Uh-huh. From my understanding, there are these three types of Ghostbusters cartoons. Let's see. The Ghostbusters, which is actually based on a live action show that came out before the actual Ghostbusters movie with these two guys and a gorilla fighting ghosts.
Oh yeah, it's a very very old, it's an old version that was it was a Ghostbusters cartoon that was originally done. I think. I want to say Filmation, but
Yeah, I believe it was Filmation from what I looked at the intro.
yeah, and at the time it was based off a movie, of like a live action movie, dark black and white movie where it's two guys and they had a camera that basically is sort of like Fatal Frame. They had a camera that destroyed ghosts when they took a picture of them, and they always had a gorilla friend with them. And then they did a cartoon series where it was their kids resuming the Ghostbuster role and just like a future generation kind of thing.
Let's see. The Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters, in order to differentiate from the original cartoon thing with the monkey.
Yeah, well, when the Ghostbusters movie came out, the first one, there was a kind of a rights lawsuit over the name Ghostbusters. So, a funny story is Ivan Reitman, the director of the Ghostbusters, like made the studio basically buy the rights of the name Ghostbusters, um, so that they could have the movie. And then when they made the cartoon, they realized that there already was a Ghostbusters cartoon. So when they came out with the cartoon based off the movie, then they called it the real Ghostbusters because that by that time they owned the rights to that name.
Fair enough. And then
Helps
there was
differentiate.
fair enough. And then there was Ghostbusters Extreme, which seems, my understanding, a new generation of Ghostbusters or something.
Oh yeah. So in the cartoon timeline, at least, eventually the Ghostbusters retire, and Egon becomes like a college professor, and then
Mm-hmm.
some of his college students wanted or who are into the paranormal decided to go to Egon and start their own Ghostbusters kind of business. But when they used the old proton packs, they realized that the ghosts were getting stronger, so they updated their equipment with these brand new type of Ghostbuster packs, which were pretty cool back then. But they were just more powerful and they had more adapting abilities.
I
So
see.
eventually, they were fighting all the older ghosts, but they were more powerful this time. But it
I
is
see.
like it's not really a new generation because it's not their kids; it's just like college students essentially.
Fair enough. So it's a new generation, but not really with the bloodlines kind of thing.
Yeah.
I see. Fair enough. And so yeah. So from my understanding, let's see, the Ghostbusters start out as like an adult comedy movie that eventually became a kids franchise, and it's regarded as the second biggest. It's regarded as the second sort of like, well, third, I guess. Well, granted, Jaws attempted to be a blockbuster franchise, but that failed. But then
Hmm.
Ghostbusters became the second sort of like multimedia franchise after Star Wars, from my understanding.
Oh yeah, it got pretty big. Um, it was also competing against Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at the time, so because it came out relatively at the same time, so you got this like kids wanted to be a Ghostbuster or they wanted to be a Ninja Turtle, and it was also competing with shows like He-Man at the time, which was pretty. So this is a franchise that was competing with several different well-known things that you're probably thinking of, and
Oh yeah, like Transformers.
yeah, and which were very popular at the time. So I mean, this is why they kind of more expanded it because they really thought they could hold down the franchise like that, um, and then eventually push the idea for a second movie.
Yeah. And from my understanding, the second movie is more of a mixed result for most people.
It wasn't well received. They thought it was essentially just rehashing what the Ghostbusters one did, but 5 years later, and it was a little bit more toned down from the first one. Um, some of the characters stopped doing the habits since the first one. Like the first one, they had smoking, and the second one, they got rid of it. It was an awkward twist to it because like all this stuff happened within a 5 year span, and we're like don't know what happened, and then you find out like Dave Barrett has a kid. Egon owns like a psychology center. Peter Venkman is a game show host, which is funny because they make that joke in the first film. And
Uh-huh.
Ray owns his own a bookstore because
Uh-huh.
after and the idea was is that after the first movie, at the ending of the first movie, do you want spoilers in this one?
I'll probably forget since I haven't really. Let's see. I mean, I've seen Ghostbusters 2016, Ghostbusters, and Afterlife. The second Ghostbusters I didn't get to see because, well, it's not on Netflix. So
Okay. Well, so I'm not going to spoil it too much. So at the end of the third, or sorry, at the end of the first movie, they explained that the Ghostbusters kind of caused so much damage that they were sued by a whole bunch of people, and they kind of went into bankruptcy.
okay. So they
And
pretty much, let's see, to explain why they only just suddenly reuniting for this movie, they decided that people actually took notice of the property damage.
yeah,
Fair
so they
enough.
kind of just doing odd and end jobs to make a living.
Fair enough. And they have to reunite once again, though I take it the plot was so, like I take it you said, the plot was so similar, it was so to the mixed reviews. And then from my
Yeah.
understanding afterwards, let's see, there were talks about doing a Ghostbusters 3, but no one could actually agree what to make of a Ghostbusters 3, if I recall.
Sort of. I mean, it depends on what you're looking for on this one because say Bill Murray. Bill Murray doesn't really like doing sequels, as you all know. I mean, if you go through Bill Murray's history, he doesn't do a lot of sequels of his originals. There's no like Groundhog Day 2 or Stripes 2 or anything like that with him in it.
So somehow he managed to do Garfield too.
Yeah, so I mean, it happens, but
and I think even the Zombieland sequel, Double Tap, when the end scene, it revealed that they were trying to do a Garfield 3, and he just made a joke about drugs cost money.
Yeah.
But
but after the second movie wasn't that well received, Bill Murray didn't want to do a third one because he thought it didn't have enough backing, essentially, because actors can be like that sometimes.
Fair enough.
And it just never got off the ground. And then Bill Murray and Harold Ramis were like off again, on again friends kind of thing because of what happened in a previous movie they worked together with. But I mean, they said that Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd, the original writers, had an idea of a Ghostbusters 3 where the Ghostbusters what it was originally going to be called Ghostbusters Go to Hell. And it was literally them going into the ghost world and down to like a hellish paranormal place where they have to stop a rift from happening, almost something similar to what the video game plot is. In fact, this is why a lot of people say Ghostbusters 3 is the video game, because of that, of the original script ideas being put into the game.
And from my understanding, since the game was well received, it's been re-released on multiple like next-gen consoles now and then, right?
Yeah. Well, and I hate to be like this, but the Ghostbusters 2016 was both a flop, but it was the drive that got people wanting to have Ghostbusters again. So because Ghostbusters 2016 was so bad, people are like, well, we want an actual Ghostbusters 3. We want a new Ghostbusters movie.
I'll probably get more into Ghostbusters 2016 in a bit, but
yeah.
But unfortunately, one of the things that I think prevented Ghostbusters 3 from being made a very long time is that the actor for like Egon Spengler, if I'm saying that correctly, died, I believe. Let's see. The actor
Harold Ramis. Harold Ramis.
Was it something like old age, heart attack, cancer, or just natural death?
I think it was a natural death, but it was more like heart failure, I guess. I think.
Okay. So
something like that.
So in many ways, for many people, that killed off any chances of like ever having a Ghostbusters 3, because it's like it would be disrespectful not to have them in there and all that stuff. Blah blah blah. So I think that's eventually what led to Sony, who, in an attempt to try and, in this age of Hollywood blockbuster franchises, figured, okay, what popular branding do we have? By the way, speaking of brandings, I believe you once said Ghostbusters was the second most recognized logo after Superman, right?
From a few places that I've seen, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I just wanted to recall that, but yeah. A bit awkward time to ask that question, but yeah. But so Sony. Sorry, what?
I just want to add an asterisk to it. This is behind religious icons, but that's a thing.
Oh yeah,
like pop culture logos recognizable, because I don't want people to be confused about this one. Well, isn't all these it's the second most non-religious iconography that people recognize.
Religious, political flags, blah blah blah. Let's see, they all have different. Let's see. Yeah, of course, religion and flags and political stuff will probably be more recognized, but yeah. But we're talking more in the world of pop culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see, and arguably the theme song's probably also one of the most recognized, up there with like the Star Wars theme, Indiana Jones, James Bond, blah blah blah. But yeah. But anyway, so Sony decided that due to the fact that, let's see, in a sense, they wanted to have a film franchise besides, well, their attempts of making a Spider-Man one, which didn't really succeed, or at least didn't make the money they want to. So they then eventually made a deal with Marvel, and now we have like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. But let's see, I believe they wanted to create a ghost, but now, of course, they got the Venomverse really thing. We'll see how that goes. But let's see, they figured, like, okay, we can't do Ghostbusters 3, so we'll do a reboot, because reboots have become a lot more common nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference, and the thing they probably did to make it sort of stand out amongst different from the previous Ghostbusters is that this time the cast would be all female, and this drew a lot of political controversy.
Oh God, did it ever?
Let's see.
I mean, for at the time, I don't know if it still is, but it was considered the most disliked video on YouTube for like
I believe so, though. Granted, I can no longer tell because I think YouTube have changed their algorithm to now only show likes and not dislikes.
Yeah.
Because I think the whole like dislike thing got just too toxic and controversial eventually. Not with the Ghostbusters film in particular, but just in debates in general and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So when the trailer came out, and well, not exactly the most impressive, but unfortunately, it led to a debate between those that giving a film a chance of saying it's hated, and those who wanted to give the chance and accusing the others of being sexist or misogynist, while those that hated it were calling them being disrespectful to the original. And in many ways, the 2016 version of Ghostbusters was just like the pop culture version of the 2016 U.S. election. But probably a lot less. But in many ways, it kind of summed up 2016.
Yeah, it was kind of the beginning of the downfall.
Yeah, let's see.
Of rational society.
Yeah, let's see. Though, and a lot less consequential success since, well, people are arguing over a movie rather than politics. But yeah, no, granted, it intertwined. But yeah. Well, granted, I even remember Honest Trailer making a joke about how Ghostbusters ended up being the most politically discussed thing during an election year.
Yeah.
But yeah. So the controversy happens. Let's see. Not to mention some of the casting choices. Sorry, go on.
I think there's something we have to understand at this point was that ever since Ghostbusters 2 came out, people wanted a Ghostbusters 3. I mean, for like the longest of time, 10, 15 years, wanting, do a Ghostbusters 3. We want a Ghostbusters 3 the entire time. So when you get news that you're making a Ghostbusters movie, everybody was excited. And then when they actually released the trailer for this thing, people were left confused because we wanted Ghostbusters 3. We wanted the original actors when they were still, when Harold Ramis was still alive to take over the roles, even if they're passing down to new generation, like have them in there showing the passing of the torch, and that's what we just wanted, and well, we didn't get that.
From my understanding, let's see, the trailer kind of made it confusing on whether or not it was an actual reboot or a continuation because of those, let's see, first 30 seconds of it. But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it was really trying to like stand on the shoulders of the other movies.
Let's see, but yeah. Now, granted, there's a bit of Now, I think regardless of which side you take, not everyone, either side was completely innocent with the thing. I mean, let's see. I do know that some of the cast got harassed, which is regardless of how you feel about a movie, people, that is never okay. You shouldn't harass people, particularly over a movie.
I'll just say this: social media has been one big mistake in modern society.
Well, probably this. Let's see. Humanity was not yet ready for it.
No.
Let's see, but that is probably
barely can stand to be next to each other in person, and now we expect us anonymity online. No.
Anyway, yeah. But then of course there's some controversy within the film itself because it was trying to portray itself as diverse and that stuff. But some accused the casting of let's see, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember the name of the 2016 Ghostbuster. Let's see.
Megan McCarthy.
Megan McCarthy being, I guess, regarded as the stereotypical Southern, African American, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So I was trying to find the correct words to say without making it sound, but yeah.
racially stereotyped
Let's see.
individuals.
Yeah. So now, regardless of what happened, the movie eventually came out, and let's see, it was a box office failure. Like most films in 2016 that tried to bring back franchises or reboots or like on all that stuff, most of them didn't really succeed.
Yeah,
In many ways, sorry, go on.
I mean it's a lot to do with that people just wanted something new, and we're just getting more and more rehashes over and over again with just more of this Hollywood political shenanigans going on, and then when the fans are questioning and be like, look, this really isn't that good. I'm sorry, it isn't. The whole plot is dry, the characters are dry, and the best jokes in the movie are like not even worth mentioning.
Well, for me, when it came to like the Ghostbusters film, that 2016 one, let's see, the first act of the film, I did not laugh once. By the time the second and third act, I started laughing a bit, started enjoying it more. I must admit, I like the action scenes, which, let's see, I think that's probably the thing that probably stands out in the movie the most, the action scenes. But it's not really necessarily a movie I'd watch again. That's not saying like sort of Ghostbusters marathon kind of thing.
I'll openly admit I bootlegged the movie and I still wanted my money back.
Okay, let's just hope that this stream does not get you charged with legal issues, James. But oh well, but yeah. But anyway, so
well,
yeah.
I didn't personally do it. A friend just gave me a copy.
Okay. Fair enough. Anyway, but yeah, so the movie was a dud, and it ended up being like, let's see, arguably one of the most debated things between fans and critics. The only other thing I could probably say was probably similar was Dawn of Justice of that year. Let's see.
Although the funny thing is, it seemed like, I don't know, like random thought, but this doesn't seem like Ghostbusters 2016 kind of like how do I want to say this? The downfall of Rotten Tomatoes.
In many ways, I suppose, in a sense, let's see. It made it to, I suppose, in many ways, it did cause debate on whether or not, okay, does its algorithm actually work and all that stuff? I mean, in many ways, I kind of remember when, let's see, looking at like the Star Wars movies, which, to be fair, they mostly match with the reactions you would see online at the time, though. For some reason, Revenge of the Sith had 33 million user ratings, while the rest had most a million. So
yeah.
I don't know what happened there.
Well, I mean,
I was wondering.
I just personally feel like the 2016. Actually, technically, it's called Ghostbusters Answer the Call, but we're gonna call it 2016 anyway.
Yeah, it's because let's see. I think most people don't really want to say the subheading, really.
Yeah, but I have a strong belief that that was a change in society. That was the beginning of a change in society.
Let's see. Well, in many ways, Nostalgia Critic did make it. Let's see, which is probably the let's see funniest thing out of the whole Ghostbusters thing, and it's like a very entertaining video with showing all the different kind of reactions to like Ghostbusters. You had the SJW work thing, political correct lot. Let's see, defending the film. You had like the over-religious Ghostbusters fans just trying to, let's see, be all like, but shame, 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 and let's see their version of like the let's see, sexist, misogynist, the meninists kind of thing. I'm not. Have you seen Nostalgia Critic's review for the film?
I have.
So it's like all these different people arguing over the thing, while Nostalgia Critics is saying, "I'm just going to cry for humanity."
Yeah.
Which, now granted, let's see, in many ways, Nostalgia Critics gave my own thoughts about, he thought the movie was average, which is probably what I think. Granted, you probably said yourself, you think it was bad. So I'm not holding it against you or anything, just that I'm not really, but like I said, I'm not really emotionally invested in Ghostbusters, really. So.
Are you a Dragon Ball?
No, neither Dragon Ball.
No. Because it'd be like a Dragon Ball fan, like seeing Dragon Ball Evolution, and y'all know
That-
that feeling.
oh boy. I guess the closest I'd probably be is like watching the Avatar movie. Now, granted, I didn't initially hate it at first, though granted, I wasn't figuring out what I thought about that film, but yeah. But, or Last Airbender, if you will. But yeah. But, where was I? But yeah. So, the 2016 movie ended up as a dud, and, well, let's see, whether or not there's going to be a new Ghostbusters movie, I'm not sure. But I think Sony eventually decided, all right, we tried the reboot thing, and we still want to make a film franchise because every one of their film franchises for the last decade or so hasn't really been successful, with the exception of Jumanji, which is, who would have thought that? I mean, if you had told me in 2017 that between Star Wars The Last Jedi and a Jumanji reboot, people would prefer more people would prefer the Jumanji reboot with like The Rock in it, I would probably have not believed you. So besides that, and I guess
They'll cast Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu. Oh wait.
But yeah. And then, of course, Venom ended up being a success, and it seems like they're now going to try and make a Venomverse. Whether or not that actually succeeds or not, I guess we have to see what Morbius' reputation is, and all that stuff. And if it's financially successful, granted, of course, now we're in the world of COVID, so box office and its success varies very different from probably what it would have been like back in pre-2019 and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the 2016 movie did one thing. It re-sparked the whole Ghostbusters franchise again, where all the fans and new fans, and we're like, well, we want an actual Ghostbusters film with the actors, old actors, and the old story plots and everything that they loved, including things from Ghostbusters 2.
Fair enough.
It wasn't the most popular sequel, but people still have a place in their heart for the nostalgia of Ghostbusters 2, and then.
Mm-hmm. It's more like, to be fair, it's more like, let's see, just a respect of continuity and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, so eventually they decided to do like Ghostbusters 3, but this time they decided to do it Ghostbusters Afterlife, and they've decided to make it all about a love letter to like
the Ghostbusters fans.
Yeah. But also more like a tribute to Harold Ramis's character, Egon Spengler, and all that stuff.
Yes.
So anyway, I think, let's see, so Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is directed by Jason Reitman.
The son of Ivan Reitman, who did the first one.
So, yeah, so they decided that, okay, if we're going to try and get people on board, we'll get people that are as much associated with the original Ghostbusters, so...
There's that. Fact, for those who don't know, if you go back to Ghostbusters 2, there's a kid at a birthday party that they're attending, and that goes, "My dad says you guys are full of crap." That's actually Jason Reitman, the kid in Ghostbusters 2.
Fair enough. So it's like, yeah. So in many ways, it's kind of like how Disney got Lawrence Kasdan, the writer for Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, or co-writer, back to co-write Force Awakens. Stuff like that, try getting nostalgia going up as much. So yeah. So anyway, they got the film, the trailers, and apparently this film was supposed to come out a year or two ago, but due to COVID, it was delayed.
Mm-hmm.
Just like everything with COVID.
Which may have been a good thing, because it could have helped with editing.
Which, yeah, it should be fair.
Go back and edit the film.
The only thing they'd have to worry about is whether or not they were going to over budget spend and all that stuff, and they have to deal with the COVID box office numbers things. Because from my understanding, after watching a sort of like John Campter video thing, I think you might have heard of the guy. Apparently only half of the film audiences has come back to watching the cinemas. So so I'm not sure if that means that for the moment, movies are only making half of what they would initially done if they were in pre-COVID times, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Not to mention the mix of like live action cinema and streaming services both doing the films kind of thing.
Although in an interesting sort of way, this is a great way to really see which movies are good and which ones are not so good. Because with with people still going back in and everything like that, you actually have people wanting to go to the theater despite everything. So if you know the movie's worth going to the theater for, there we are.
Fair enough, though I guess Ridley Scott would probably disagree with that thing, and given how given some of the think because I heard he blames millennials for his latest film for failing. Last two, I believe.
Well, that's just the attitude of Hollywood, where it's always the fans and all the millennial generation's fault because it's definitely not our own fault. We gotta blame somebody.
I mean, not to mention, we have to be very picky of what we go watch in the cinema these days. Heck, I now have a job now and I have to consider budgeting, so now on I can only watch films once and not like twice like I used to for the last few years. So, yeah. Anyway, so I think we've discussed 30 minutes of the history of Ghostbusters and everything. I think it's now time to finally get into the film.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the film is set 32 years after the defeating of Virgo the Carpavarian, which I think is Ghostbusters.
Vigo the Carpathian.
Carpathian, fair enough. I take it it's another ghost-like entity like Zulu, I think. Let's see. Like I said, I'm not. Let's see. Let's see. I'm trying to remember.
Like a medieval. Like an old, early medieval knight god.
Okay, fair enough. So that'll be interesting whenever I get the chance to actually watch Ghostbusters 2. But yeah. So 32 years, and the Ghostbusters have disbanded after apparently ghost sightings had declined and all that stuff, or just not showed up. And we see that Egon Speller is living on the farm, and he's trying to run away from what appears to be like a ghost, trying to prepare up all the defenses and all that stuff. And it seems like he's trying to hide, some sort of like ghost, one of the Ghostbusters capture devices thing, seemingly holding an important ghost in there. From this other ghost that is chasing him, he's able to hide, the device, but unfortunately his devices fail, and he dies from what is reported as a heart attack, but it's clear that he's been killed by a ghost.
Yeah, well, after the trap that device that he had failed, he ran into the house, hid the Ghostbusters trap that he took away. What was in it was taken away from the being that was chasing him. So he hid that and then waited for the ghost, and it's attacked very similar to the way Dana Barrett was attacked in her room in the first movie.
Fair enough. Oh yeah. I should have noticed that, but then again, I've only seen Ghostbusters once.
Yeah. Well, that's why you have me here.
Yeah, this is why I have you, a Ghostbusters expert, if you will.
We also get to see a new little device on the PKE meter, as it seems to deploy what appears to be like I guess you could say a PK taser.
Okay. So anyway, we move back to we move to a play. Let's see. We move to we go to another setting. I think in city in New York, maybe. I can't recall, but let's see. But anyway, we end up meeting Egon Spencer's estranged daughter. Carly, portrayed by. Let me just get the casting up. Portrayed by. Carly. Let's see. Oh yeah, Carly Spangler. Let's see. Portrayed by Carrie Coon. Okay, that's a very controversial surname. That's let's see, inappropriate joke there. Apologize.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
But yeah. So let's see. Egon Speller's daughter, who was estranged from him, who has apparently never met him because he unfortunately had to abandon his family when she was just a baby. who's also resentful to
Yeah.
let's see, Egon Speller, and has two children of her own. Let's see, Trevor Spangler, the older one, and Phoebe Spangler, who very much takes after like her grandfather, if you will.
Yeah.
A sort of genius kid scientist, if you will.
Stranger Things, kids.
Yeah. Well, I've not watched
if you watch Stranger Things, you know who these two characters are.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I don't watch Stranger Things, so yeah. So there's like that. So
Phoebe has a heart as a character. She's a nerd, very intelligent.
yeah,
She doesn't have a lot of friends, so she's
yeah,
kind of an outcast in that sense.
yeah. And from my understanding, her genius also kind of eventually put off like her father, which led to her abandoning like his family and all that stuff. From what we got in the backstory later.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, they're being kicked out of their rent apartment thing, but at the same time, they've been given notice. Carly's been given notice that her father's died, and has left him like a sort of like house in in a place called Somerville, Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
So they go there. So they go there to collect their inheritance. And during this time, we end up learning just how resentful she is of her father and all that stuff.
Yeah. And in this town, everybody called Egon the dirt farmer.
Oh yeah, the dirt farmer, because they all thought he was crazy. Because they all thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
All that stuff. During which they end up meeting the former secretary for the Ghostbusters. You probably know the name.
Janine Melnitz.
Yeah,
played by Annie Potts.
Yeah, Janine Melnitz, who ends up revealing that who was a close friend of like Egon. In fact, when I watched the movie, I thought those two were like sort of had a thing going on between each other. I'll be honest.
They did. They were trying to set them up in the first movie, and that was kind of part of the plot, originally. But when Ghostbusters 2 came out, like Harold kind of thought they should downplay any kind of Egon and Janine romance, kind of like get rid of it. Which is why it's so weird that all of a sudden Janine was into Louis Tully, which was in the first movie just Dana Barrett's next door neighbor, now turned Ghostbuster lawyer, essentially.
Okay, so she ended up getting together with like the nerdy dude from the first Ghostbusters that was possessed.
Yeah, by Louis Tully, played by Rick Moranis.
Fair enough. One of the only actors to not appear in this Ghostbusters film. But heck.
Yes.
But yeah. But anyway.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, Rick Moranis. There's a little interesting side bit about this one. He kind of went into early retirement because the Honey I Shrunk the Kids franchise made him so much money, and mostly because his wife died of cancer, so he wanted to be there for his kids at home.
Fair enough. So understandable and sympathetic reasons.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's see. Anyway, so she informs Carrie. Unfortunately, Egon Spencer wasn't exactly good at, keeping money. In fact, the house is in a bit of debt, which makes her even more.
Egon Spencer.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry.
Egon Spangler.
Egon Spangler. Sorry, I don't. I apologize to Ghostbusters fans that I have offended. Or anyone else I might have offended with like previous comments and poor jokes earlier.
Yeah, and here's his best friend, Jay Strantz.
But yeah, I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just being awkward. Let's see, but yeah.
Peter Wankman.
But yeah, Spangler, sorry. Let's see, was not good at managing money, so then debt, so she's even more resentful than, she probably was and all that stuff. So she's trying to make the best of it. Well, during the course of this, the elder son, let me try to remember the name, Trevor, has met this girl that works at a sort of like, a Lucky Domingo, a sort of like, probably I understand like probably like a 16 or 17-year-old, waiter girl, and in the diner kind of thing, which he has a crush on.
Yeah, well, they pull up to this restaurant that's kind of like it's basically like a
Yeah.
drive-in restaurant that they have, but they sell burgers and fries. So they go like there, and she's one of the waitresses that goes around skating to the cars, taking orders and that sort of thing. And he meets her there, and he tries to hit on her and get a job and try to hang out with all the cool kids in town.
But they all think he's a bit of a dork.
Yeah, but I have to say it's a breath of fresh air to have a teenager like try to make his move fail, but keep going for it. Like, oh, he's such a dork, and he's like, oh yeah, well I'm gonna keep going until I prove that I'm not one.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting because you see all the other stories where, hey, this dude's a dork. Well, there goes my life. And they're just walking away, and then that's it. No, he keeps trying. Trevor's like, I'm gonna make friends.
No, so Lucky sort of gives him a chance, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Though granted, Trevor does the sort of immature thing of lying about his age. But yeah. But anyway, so that's going for him while Phoebe, let's see, damn it, I'm going to keep making the names wrong. Phoebe is going to be a bit awkward, but she ends up going to sort of like a sort of summer school class thing where we meet Paul Rudd's actor. Let's see, try and find them. Let's see, Paul Rudd's, let's see.
Gruberson.
Yeah, Gruberson. A sort of geometry teacher, I think, or I've forgotten what's his profession is.
He's basically a geologist teacher.
Geologist teacher.
Who's studies seismic activity.
Yeah. Who's volunteered to do it, and he's because it's like it lets him get the sort of teach the class he wants. Who's kind of is crushing on like Phoebe's mother.
Yeah.
Harry.
Well, that becomes the love, the relationship, love, romance of the story is happening right there, and with the brother a little bit, but this is the mostly.
Which, to be fair, was probably the smart move, to be honest.
Yeah.
Let's see. So yeah, especially with what happens later. But yeah. But anyway, yeah. But we'll get to that in a minute. Let's see. But
I'm sorry. I just remember a joke from the movie.
Fair enough. So yeah.
I'm sorry. Paul Rudd is very funny in this movie.
Oh yeah. Well, Paul Rudd's very well. Yeah. Well, it's Paul Rudd. He was very funny in Ant-Man as well. So let's see. Smart choice. But yeah. So anyway, during the critique lesson, which he ended up just letting them watch movies and stuff, I think of a horror killer dog or something. I don't know. Sounds like one of those cheesy horror movies.
Well, they're watching the movie Cujo by Stephen King.
Okay.
So it's about this killer dog. Yeah, Cujo.
Yeah. I take it this is one of those famous Stephen King witty novels, which are very well written and all that stuff, but the film adaptation very poorly and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Since rarely any of Stephen King's movies get adapted well, with the exception of like the first It movie in the 2017, I think.
Shawshank Redemption 2.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
And Green Mile.
Okay. So anyway, so during the lesson, let's see, Phoebe ends up meeting and befriending a sort of conspiracy theory online kid called Podcast, or who refers to himself as Podcast. We don't actually know his name.
We don't get his actual name. He just says, "My name is Podcast." Why? Because I do podcasts.
Yeah. Which is both cringy and funny at the same time. But yeah, I can totally. But yeah, I probably could see a kid with someone nicknaming themselves Podcasts.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I thought I was going to be annoyed with this kid. You ever like watch a movie and there's like an annoying character? Shout out to all you Jar Jar Binks haters. And it's like, why are they there? They're not really adding anything. And I thought that he was going to be that kind of character, but he actually turned out pretty funny himself. So,
okay, we've just got a little comment in the stream, and I'm not pronouncing that. Let's see. So, no, but or is that a very okay? I've seen we've got like a spam watcher or something in the comments.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anyway, let's see. So yeah. So they befriend. He ends up. Let's see. But during the course of this, I believe an earthquake happens, which of course the professor kind of like. Hold on a second. Can I?
He doesn't understand why the earthquakes are happening.
Yeah.
Mostly because they're not the town that they're in, Somerville, is not on a fault line, and if you're not on a fault line, you're not going to get earthquakes.
Yeah. So, and this is where Phoebe and the teacher. Let's see. I should really learn Paul Rudd's character's name. Goober. Gooberson.
You just call him Gruber. How about
Yeah,
that?
Gruber. Let's see. Funny surname, funny name, and all that stuff. But this is where the two get to know each other a bit and sort of bond over the fact that she's a smart kid and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah. So, which eventually allows him to, interact more with her mother and all that stuff and all that thing. So, eventually, Phoebe takes a podcast to like their house to like,
They just check out Egon Spangler's
Yeah.
farm, and
Yeah.
if you're a Ghostbuster fan like I am, like you'll start to notice all these little Easter eggs that you see. There's a special book stacking and.
Yeah, that's I recalled that one, and I take it all these sort of like writings about the end is nigh or something.
Oh yeah, chapters Revelation 7:12.
That, and there's also like a Ghostbuster, some sort of like ghost whistle thing.
Yeah, the Aztec death whistle.
I take it that's in Ghostbusters too.
No, that's actually original to this movie.
Okay. Oh, props up to that movie for doing something original. Anyway, so let's see. So eventually, during the course of this, Phoebe ends up discovering the ghost contraption, and they're trying to figure out what it is, and eventually bring it. They eventually bring it to school, in which Gruber eventually notices what they have and reveals to them that that's a Ghostbusters caption trap thing.
And it turns out Gruberson is a huge Ghostbusters fan.
Yeah.
It's a cool replica.
Let's see, and in many ways does what most kids nowadays would be like, what's Ghostbusters? With like the older people saying like, Ghostbusters is like one of the biggest things of the 80s. It's the most amazing thing ever kind of thing. A sort of inside joke about how probably Ghostbusters is like. Heck, you even got that in like Zombieland in 2009, to be honest. Yeah. Let's see, with like the little one. Let's see, I'm trying to remember her name.
Phoebe.
Yeah. Let's see. No, I'm talking about Zombieland. Let's see, Little Rock. Yeah. Let's see, but yeah. But anyway, Phoebe. So let's see. So this is where Phoebe learns that her grandfather was
Ghostbuster.
Yeah, Ghostbuster and Egon Spangler, who solved who dealt with Ghostbuster crises during the 80s and all that stuff. Let's see, three of them.
We get some good stuff where we see like the old commercial on a YouTube thing. That she's watching. She writes down the phone number. The original. We're ready to believe you.
Yeah.
And it was really nice seeing all of that.
Yeah.
Like all that, and then you see the filming that they did. He's like, because Gruberson was explaining, the paranormal rift of 1980, 1987, which is when the movie came out.
Fair enough. So So during this, the three of Gruber, Phoebe, and Podcast become curious about if there's a ghost trapped inside the thing. So they try to open it, and they eventually succeed. But unfortunately, they out the ghost that, Egon Spangler was trying so hard to keep locked up, and he ends up going back to like. Sort of like this, wasteland mining cart thing, which I forgot to mention earlier because Phoebe and Podcast went there earlier. There are rumors about how this thing was constructed. Let's see, because apparently this is where the village was built. Reason why the village was built to mine stuff there, and no one knows like the origins of like the sort of shrine thing that was made there. So the ghost has gone back there.
Yeah, and it's a mine that was opened by If you know who we're talking about, that says the Shandor Mines.
Ah, yes, the guy that was mentioned for creating the hotel buildings from like the first Ghostbusters movie.
Yes,
So yeah. So anyway,
Ivo Shandor,
yeah,
a Babylonian god cult worshipper.
yeah, who wanted to bring Gozu to the world and destroy it. Let's see if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, but yeah.
Wait for someone in the comments to go Sumerian, not Babylonian. Pop culture reference to the first movie.
Fair enough. So anyway, let's see. So the ghost is out, and during this time, you have Trevor hanging out with like sort of becoming part of the group of teenagers that
He's getting in with the clit. It's just like high school that you would see.
Yeah. Let's see, though, granted, I went to a special needs school for my secondary high school years, so I probably had a very different experience, but yeah.
And I didn't have any friends, so I
didn't. Fair enough. Let's see. Hold on, I'm just gonna let's see. Block user because I don't want this. Let's see. Oh wait. Oh, let's see. Oh, you were sort of removed there for a second, James. Let's say something happened.
Well, that happened.
I know. I ended up basically blocking that sort of like spam naked HD XYZ thing.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if that caught you out as well or something. Sorry about that.
That's okay. As I said, I didn't have any friends, so I never had the experience.
So yeah, fair enough. So we're not like so yeah. So they go out to hang out the sort of like mines thing, and that's when we see Trevor sees his first glimpse of Ghost as like a ghost through like the mine well that he's in and all that stuff. And everyone's with the teenagers thinking at first cool, but then start running out of there when it's like, okay, this just seems dangerous now and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that.
And podcast. And this is the same mine that Phoebe and Podcast went to and found this what appears to be like a shrine, like in the rock face.
Yeah.
But they don't know how it got there or what it is or anything like that. And it caused, as they were mining, it caused several miners to die. So it's just this tale that's going around town, and it becomes a plot point later down the road. But it's just instead of this idea that there's something about the area that was specifically done has a connection with Ivo Shandor and what his cult is doing.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. So they go back to like to Egon Speller's house to try and find more details and finding like the map and stuff. And during this, I think Gruber asks Carrie out on a like date kind of thing.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Obi ends up discovering Egon Spencer's like secret work shack, if you like, for all the Ghostbusters equipment.
Mm-hmm. And this room is a gold mine for any and all references of the Ghostbuster fandom.
Yeah, where you see all these types of Ghostbusters equipment, which I'm probably not be able to have enough time to figure it all out, given my limited knowledge of Ghostbusters.
You see references of Egon as Ghostbusters. He has spores, molds, and fungus trays. You know, in reference to how he collects spores, molds, and fungus from the first movie.
Yeah, I'm amazed that the most famous ghost from the Ghostbusters, that green gubby guy, didn't end up appearing in this film. I will be honest.
I was a bit surprised at Slimer. Yeah, I was surprised that Slimer didn't make an appearance in this one, but I'm hoping that he gets put back in somewhere. We have this like kind of cheesy ripoff Slimer in this one that's blue and he eats metal. So
yeah, but we'll get to that in a bit. So yeah, while she's looking at the equipment, she also ends up getting hints of helps of from an invisible force to figure out how to make all the stuff work, particularly like the Ghostbusters iconic ghost Ritzy weapons. And she realizes
it was also very interesting to look at the innards of a proton pack and see how the hydrocollator would work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so and she realizes that it's her grandfather trying to help her create these to make all this stuff work, so they can go catch ghosts and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and which during this time, Trevor ends up discovering Egon Spencer's, like, let's see, the iconic Ghostbusters, let's see, car, if you
Yeah.
will.
The Ecto-1, the
The Ecto-1.
1987 Cadillac.
So he's trying to make it work because he thinks, like, okay, if I can get a car, this will make me look much more cooler and all that stuff.
Yeah. And even though there's like a whole bunch of cars, they're like, well, why did this one? He goes, because it's the only one that's working.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, I'm getting another spam account thing and just blocking that.
It happens.
Yeah. Let's see. It's probably the first time.
Lee, we're talking about Ghostbusters here.
Yeah.
This is far more important.
Yeah, we don't care about. Let's see. But yeah. So we don't care about your let's see, whatever spam you're trying to do. We're talking about Ghostbusters here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so a Ghostbuster. So meanwhile, Phoebe and let's see, podcast are trying to test out the equipment, and that's when they encountered like the sort of slime ripoff of the blue chomper ghost kind of thing.
Yeah, the Metal Muncher.
Yeah, Metal Muncher. And they tried. Sorry, go on.
Well, I just want to point out that there was a big question in the Ghostbuster fan base of like, if y'all remember the first movie when they're on the elevator and Ray says, "Well, there's no time to test now. Switch me on," and then like he flips the switch in the back of the proton pack and it powers up.
Yeah.
People always wonder what exactly he pushed, and you finally get to see it in this one. What that little switch underneath.
Okay.
I know it's a little goofy thing like that, but like to see that interesting, there's like a safety switch.
Okay.
Proton packs.
Fair enough. That is interesting. So let's see. So they attempt to try and catch this ghost, but their first attempt doesn't really succeed as the ghost eventually flees into the city and all that stuff, causing a bit of panic there. While let's see, this is where Phoebe and Podcast meet up with Trevor and reveal that. Let's see. And it reveals to Trevor that their grandfather was a Ghostbuster and all that stuff, and why he's probably here. With Phoebe starting to realizing that, okay, he was obviously here, and let's see, left the family for a reason to come here. As they start to like investigate, let's see, as they then try to catch that ghost, but during the time of they doing that, they caused quite a bit of damage to the town because, well, that's what the Ghostbusters equipment did, and that is the reason why they got, like you said, sued in the second movie.
Yeah, but we did get to see some tinkering that Egon has done to like add extras to the, Ecto-1 and.
I take it like that removable like seat thing that can shoot out the Ghostbusters and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, like the proton turret. Yeah.
Yeah, I take it that's a new thing.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I was wondering if that would be in Ghostbusters 1 or Ghostbusters 2, but now I know. Okay, it's in Afterlife. It's a new thing.
And the little RC trap.
Yeah, fair enough. In which they eventually use it to capture the thing. Catch the blue ghost. Which, funny enough, during this time, Carrie is talking to like a Grubby, and trying to explain like her backstory about the father, and like also Phoebe and like her ex husband and all that stuff. And while she loves her daughter, kind of just wishes she'd be a bit more of a normal girl and sort of get in trouble, but she ends up eating those words as she ends up destroying half the town, if you will.
Yeah.
So eventually they end up catching the blue ghost by the time they go back.
Which I'm surprised they didn't make a joke at that.
Yeah.
But maybe it would have been too easy.
Yeah. Who knows? But yeah. So they eventually catch the ghost in like near the shrine bit, and then they end up investigating it a bit more. And I think they're actually.
Well, you're forgetting something. So So after they try to catch this ghost and practically destroyed half the town, essentially,
Yeah.
So they get arrested, and they get thrown, and the equipment gets taken, confiscated, and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm getting the two bits mixed up. I forgot that they don't. I forgot that they Trevor at first thinks like Lucky Domingo is also a prison there for hiding drugs and all that stuff, but it feels that she's actually the police chief's daughter, if you will.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah. But this is a plot point because this is where Phoebe talks about getting a one phone call, and who does she call? She actually calls Ray Stantz,
Yeah,
Ray Cole's bookstore, which has the same number as the original Ghostbusters thing, which
yeah,
that
yeah,
explains that.
yeah.
And you
This
know,
is
and
where
huh?
we learn what happened to the original Ghostbusters.
Yeah, so we get this so when talking Phoebe talking to Ray, we have Ray tell that Egon Spangler can burn in hell, you know. But
Because he's resentful for the fact that he abandoned him and took all that Ghostbusters gear.
yeah, well, we got this backstory that after a while, as Ray explains, the ghost busting business dried up. There were no more ghosts to bust. They basically got everything, and the paranormal, the ghost seeing activity just flatlined. So Egon, during the time, he was talking about this area that he believes is going to happen, this time thing that he was explaining. Ray didn't understand, but he thought Egon was going nuts, and then one day they will all wake up and Egon is gone with the proton packs, Ecto One, and all that, just up and leaves.
And the other two went on to form their own businesses, from my understanding.
Hmm.
So yeah, well, he just ends up sticking with like a shop and all that stuff. So it seems like for him, some point after Ghostbusters disbanded, he hasn't exactly had the best life.
No.
At least financially speaking.
Yeah. Well, Ray's just kind of hanging in there with his bookstore, and then you got Winston, who became a very successful businessman, and um,
Mm-hmm.
what I forget what Peter did.
I think he also had a successful company or some successful business.
Or something like that. I
Yeah,
can't remember.
yeah. But
That's one
either
little
way,
detail I kind of forgot.
but yeah. But anyway, let's see. Let's see. Peter Vankman eventually try and convince Phoebe that don't go chasing
Right.
ghosts, and let's see, don't
Right,
get
Ray.
to Bill Murray's
Not Peter
character.
Raymond.
Sorry,
Yeah.
let's see,
No, no,
Bill
no.
Murray's.
Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Basically,
So
Ray Stantz tells Phoebe, just let the past be the past. Don't go chasing ghosts or anything like that.
yeah, and eventually, just before she gets cut off and all that stuff, because apparently there's a timer for the phone call when you're in jail.
Mhm.
Let's see, she reveals
Which
that
is not
she
true. I don't know why movies do this, but it has its charm. But this is not how jail works.
fair enough. Let's see. But yeah. Now, granted, I'd rather not find out. Granted, I'd rather not go to jail to find out all this stuff. So yeah, my mother would kill me. But yeah. So anyway, but yeah. So but before she can but before she gets cut off, she's able to reveal to Bill Murray's character Peter.
Ray Stantz, Dan
Yeah,
Aykroyd,
yeah. That she is. Let's see.
that
Speller.
Egon, that she's the granddaughter of Egon Spangler, and
Yeah,
he passed away.
yeah. Which seems to shock him quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Which we'll get to what that leads to later. And this is when like her mother, and Carrie and let's see, Gruber comes to pick her up, and she is kind of furious with her daughter.
Oh yeah. As any mother would be.
Yeah, well, any parent would be mad that their kids ended up in jail.
Hmm.
Let's see, which is why I have to make sure I never do that, because my mum would definitely kill me for reasons. Let's see, but yeah, but no, not joking, everyone. But yeah, anyway, so let's see, but this is where Phoebe sort of gets mad back at her. It's like, why didn't you tell me that? Let's see, my grandfather was Egon
Spangler.
Spangler, as she ends up learning just how much like her grandfather she is during the course of this movie and all that stuff.
Hmm.
But she's not really happy to hear, and even she gets a bit defensive of him when, like, the police chief was like, let's see, mocking like him as like that crazy old dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the mother,
Mhm.
she just calls her grandfather a crazy old man because he kind of just up and left,
Yeah.
and
Let's see.
and
Mhm.
seemed like he didn't care. So she had her own personal resentment daddy issues.
Yeah.
Apparently, Egon wasn't that great of a father. But
No, let's see. Well, that seems to be the thing with every spin-off sequel series. Let's see, characters being very terrible parents for some reason. It never seem, and as a result, ends up annoying people.
yeah,
But anyway,
well,
yeah,
not abusive, like hitting them, but like just like abandonment,
yeah.
kind of.
It's like Hollywood doesn't know any other way to cause drama within a family.
Yeah, unless there's a love affair, I guess.
Yeah, but oh well. Anyway, what was I? So yeah, she tries. I think tries to draw a weapon on like the police chief, but of course the mother's not having it. And let's see, she eventually tries to, and the mother gets upset. Though granted, the Paul Rudd's character, Gruber, eventually calms like them both down and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and let's see, they're taken back. Let's see, so they're taken back. So I think they're both. Let's see, her and Trevor are sent both back home and all that stuff. I believe, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. And meanwhile, let's see, the ghosts are starting to get released, and like the gatekeeper and the taskmaster, is it?
Keymaster.
Keymaster.
The gatekeeper.
Let's see, they've both awakened, and one of
Master's Marvel.
yeah. Sorry, my mistake there. Let's see. So the two magic ghost dog things, and one of them goes after Gruberson, who's going out the shop, and then gets attacked by all these tiny marshmallows, and then the dog.
At a weird plug-in.
Yeah.
Like, while he goes to Walmart for a Baskin.
I don't know.
For some ice cream.
I don't know, I guess. Let's see, there's no local shop that has it, I guess. But yeah. But yeah, see, there's some funny bits where the marshmallows are burning and eating each other. It's like, are you trying to make yourself marshmallows? Yeah.
I kind of saw them looking at like because it reminded me of Baby Yoda a little bit, and I was like, did they see like the success of Baby Yoda and try to make a baby Stay Puft?
I don't know. It's possible, like, see Grogu, or AKA Baby Yoda, has started a new, marketing trend, I guess you could say. Let's see.
It was a funny scene, though. I liked the little. Yeah. I was like, oh, that
count. But yeah, so let's see. I believe the gatekeeper or the keymaster, whichever one possesses the male, possesses Gruberson.
Okay, well,
Gruber.
Think about this biologically. Who's going to be the keymaster? The guy.
Okay, the keymaster.
The gatekeeper.
It really is inappropriate humor.
And when they get together, they unlock the birthing of a wait.
I'm finally getting that inappropriate joke.
And they do make this joke about that because they actually do find Tobin's spirit guide in the movie, and then they talk about this, and podcast cracks a joke of like, oh, they get it on.
But yeah. So anyway, eventually, like Phoebe and her brother Trevor eventually reunite with Podcast and Lucky to go investigate the ruins and all that stuff. I think taking the Ghostbuster van again. Let's see. And they end up seeing like where the guy who made like the whole buildings, the hotel, and like the mines here. What's his name again?
Ivo Shandor.
Ivo Shandor, frozen in his like coffin body kind of thing. And they're seeing like, and they're investigating like let's see, like the ghost sort of like the sort of ghost portal of where like apparently Gozu is supposed to come out and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. They also let's see, and also we get a funny joke here where Lucky learns that Trevor's 15.
Oh yeah,
it's like, wait, you're 15?
Yeah, that's when they're in the temple.
Yeah,
and
so
I noticed that Egon was right about something because it's the basically a ghost portal is opening up every so often years, and the last one was the 1987 rift, and then now the same numbers were in the house, the same as his temple, but it was counting down all the times this rift was going to open. So basically, Egon set up this trap, which like they did in the first movie to close the doors or close the portal, was to do the he had 4 basically turrets of protons and that proton packs, and that fired the combined being like crossing the streams, being down into the portal to hold it back.
Yeah, so he's pretty much spent all his time there to prepare to create this trap to prevent Gozu from coming back. Let's see, so no one would have to deal with that, chaos again and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. I think some of the years that were shown was, well, besides 2021 and like the first Ghostbusters movie, was also 1945, which, well, the whole world was on fire at that time.
And if you notice, another reference says 1909, which was the Tunguska blast of 1909, which Ray makes a mention of in the first movie.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah.
So during the blast of 1909, even though technically the Tunguska blast was in 1908.
Yeah. Anyway, during this time, Carrie is starting to investigate like her father's old warehouse, and ends up seeing that for the entire entire billboard. Because one of the things she was going about earlier was that there's no photos of anyone here, not even
in the house, yeah.
And she ends up seeing that. This entire billboard of all the photos of her throughout her entire life, showing that her father, at the very least, was thinking about her.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that means that she should forgive him for like the abandoning things, but at the very least, she has an idea that the father did somewhat care for her.
Yeah.
So yeah. But as that's happening, she ends up being possessed by the gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. And just as like the trap is starting to take the effect on Gozu, let's see. Gozer. Grubber,
Gruber.
Yeah, Gruber ends up destroying, one of the devices, causing,
preventing them from crossing the streams and preventing them from closing the portal.
Yeah. So like that. So, let's see, Gozu is back. So, talking about nostalgia for the Ghostbusters movies, they brought back the main villain, which, to be fair, didn't really appear much in the first Ghostbusters, really.
Mm-mm.
But anyway, that wasn't really the point. It was supposed to be this.
Appeared right at the end, so they got the coming of Gozer.
Yeah.
That Gozer was a man, whatever it wants to be.
Oh yeah, man, woman. Would see both genders, I guess you could go. But yeah, and during this time, I think this is where the guy from who created all these things awakens and talks about how they rule the world together and all that stuff. But Gozer just splits him in half.
So it's the first time we actually get an Ivo Shandor like actor being played by J.K. Simmons. Matter of factly.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. First time we get to see what Ivo Shandor looks like, even though you got in the video game we had an idea because you fight him as a main bad guy in the video game, but it's interesting to finally see him on like this level, like on the live action movie.
Yeah. Let's see, the highest part of the Ghostbusters, the main thing for the Ghostbusters franchise.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, he ends up, trying to make this big speech, but he gets quickly killed, showing that,
one of the probably most gruesome death scenes I've ever seen happen in a Ghostbuster movie.
Yeah.
It's ripped in half.
Yeah. Which kind of goes
not the long way.
But, yeah. No, granted... You really should have thought of the whole thing like, oh, I'm going to summon a giant ghost demon god thing to rule the world together. You really think it's going to want to rule the world with you and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, has nobody ever saw television stories anymore? How many stories are there in even the fictional world where it's like, oh, we're going to summon this god and maybe they'll be lenient on us, and then the god's like, yeah, right.
You mean you've already done the job you needed to do? I don't need you no more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So, yeah. Oh, well, but heck. It makes for good Hollywood television, I guess. And movies. But, yeah. So, at this point, Phoebe is trying to make these awkward jokes, which she's tried to make quite throughout the film, though only Podcast has laughed at it. And I think maybe Gruber has.
Mm-hmm.
So, eventually... Oh, great! I might be going. Wait, actually, that might be a bit later in the film, actually, because they go back to where Egon Spencer's house, where they learn that their mother has been, where Phoebe learns that her mother's been possessed, and she ends up, leaving, and then eventually going to Gruber, the sort of keymaster, and they do what they did in the first Ghostbusters movie.
hmm And let's get it on.
Yeah, which, to be fair, in today's standards, would probably be a bit considered inappropriate, which is probably why a romance was built up between these two.
Yeah.
In this one, because, well, let's face it, when the first two with the neighbors and all that stuff, one of them was kind of into the ritzy girl. I remember the girl from the woman from the first Ghostbusters movie that Bill Murray's character was into.
Dana Barrett.
Yeah, Anna Barrett. She wasn't really interested in like the nerdy neighbor.
Yeah.
Which now these days would probably be considered very inappropriate. Let's see, but yeah.
Yeah.
But let's see, of course, it's a part of Ghostbusters lore, so they found a way to make it sort of work, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Let's see, with like two people that are kind of into each other. So, yeah.
You're all complaining about a cult that was supposedly thousands of years old being represented in the 1980s because it doesn't follow 2016 standards. Just saying.
Well, but let's see. It's just that when you think about it, let's see, with modern day standards, which I was kind of like, oh, I can see this bit not aging well.
Yeah.
But they sort of made it work, and I think they sort of for the most part made it work, and
Yeah.
with this one. So
and it's I mean, it is what it is. They kept it tasteful.
Yeah. So let's see. So probably nothing, at least tasteful enough that they wouldn't cause like an internet outrage. So yeah, but then again, I think
just the film existing has already caused the internet outrage. But
because I'm being like, oh, you're being disrespectful to the 2016 Ghostbusters and all that stuff. I take it.
Well, it like that like Alex Jones, who was in the 2016 version, she was the black lady that she had a big fit of this movie coming out because she's like, oh, it's just a bunch of bigots wanting this.
Okay, fair enough. Okay,
so, I don't think they're gonna worry about that too much. What's in the movie? The movie just existing alone is enough to cause rifts.
Yeah, let's see. Granted, I suppose I can probably understand why she's a bit mad because, well, she got harassed so much from, like, let's see, the controversy from the last film. So I guess you could say she's kind of resentful that they just seem to be ignoring her now.
Well, when you cause drama,
let's see. But anyway,
it's not like the harassment was unwarranted. She was kind of a jerk to people.
But anyway, it's best not to get too into it because in case, let's see, we cause controversy for ourselves. But yeah. Let's see, or get people getting upset for what we say. But anyway, going back to the film, let's see, the Gatekeeper and the Keymaster have reunited and created Gozer brought back, which that is the resurrection bit there, sorry.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And that's when let's see, this is what happens when you only see a movie once in the cinema and then wait like a week or two later to stream it. You kind of forget the plot details or the order of the plot.
Yeah, well, the temple that you see from the first movie that occurred ends up coming out of the wall structure that they went to the mountain, and it looks like the setup from it's the exact same setup of the first movie, but in this, not New York, and they pull Ecto 1 up and everything, and
they wear the Ghostbusters gear.
Yeah.
So yeah. So they have the plan of trying to get to capture one of the two gatekeepers, which end up being, of course, they realize is like a mom and a teacher.
Yeah.
So they figured they'll capture, let's see, the gatekeeper one, which is their mother, the ghost and all that stuff.
Oh, why Phoebe tells horrible dad jokes.
Yeah, terrible jokes, which Gozer is a bit confused at first, but is wondering like, are you trying to offer yourself as a sacrifice? And she's like, no, I'm 12.
Yeah.
And that causes Gozer to be distracted long enough, but let's see.
I just have to wonder how many people sat there looking at it going, is she going to ask Phoebe, are you a god? We got time for a twist on that one.
Oh, yeah. Let's see, but yeah, so let's see. So bad humor distracts pretty powerful entities.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, we saw that with Guardians of the Galaxy, and to an extent, Naruto with like the reverse ham jutsu. Mm-hmm. But anyway.
And
It's,
eventually they capture the gatekeeper and they
and
take the mother and they run.
yeah, and this is where the mother tries to try and talk about everything she saw, and they try to explain everything to her, with sort of like a sort of quick "I'm sorry" kind of thing to each other.
Yes.
Let's see. So yeah, you have like Gozer and the
Keymaster.
Keymaster pursuing them and all that stuff, and eventually they make it back to like let's see Spengler's like house, where they try to set up their trap to capture like permanently capture Gozer. And at first it seems to be working, but then Gozer eventually is able to. It's eventually Gozer and the gatekeeper, I mean the Keymaster, eventually sort of like free the gate the gatekeeper,
Yeah.
and it possesses Lucky. So it looks like the plan for Spengler failed, and some of the equipment's not fully working at the time, and partly because like little marshmallow ghosts are like
Yeah.
sabotaging.
Well, it's very reminiscent of what you saw Egon trying to do in the beginning of the movie, where he captured
Mhm.
one of the dogs and then the hellhounds, and then brought it back to his house where he laid a trap for the capture. Goes in that indefinitely.
Yeah. So it's like it looks like all hope is lost, and then suddenly the original the three remaining Ghostbuster members that are still alive show up.
Yep. Ray Stantz, played by Dan Aykroyd, Peter Venkman, played by Bill Murray, and Winston Zeddemore, played by um, Ernie Hudson.
Uh huh. It's like and it's sort of like, hey, Gozer, remember us, kind of thing.
Hmm.
And it's sort of like endgame come witty reinforcements kind of thing, I guess you could say, but
Yeah.
with Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And at first, they seem to be working against him, and I think that's where you get that sort of joke of a god thing coming in that you mentioned,
Yeah.
right?
Well, Ray does his speech. Ray tells his speech again, like he did in the first movie, and Peter Venkman's like, "Oh, here we go again," you know. And then Gozer says the iconic line, "Are you a god?" And then Ray just stands there thinking, and the other two are like, "Ray, come on, man," because reminiscent of the first movie where it asked, and he goes, "No," and then she goes, "Then die." So this time they're like, "Come on, man, you know the answer," and he's like, "Yes, we're all gods here."
Yeah, I'm surprised that Gozer doesn't even remember them, since perhaps Gozer does remember them because that's like these are the same guys that stopped you last time.
Yeah.
So yeah. So at first they seem to be working, but then of course Gozer I think ends up being a bit too strong, or some more sabotage. I
Yeah.
can't
Well,
remember.
see, the other time they had four streams like
Yeah,
combined attacking, but this time they only have three because there's only three Ghostbusters.
yeah,
And then Gozer starts pulling the streams back apart to prevent it from doing any more damage, and then they get knocked back, and then Bill Murray or Peter Venkman says, well, I think this is it, fella. He basically like, oh well, this is the end, fellas. And which I think is a slight nod way of saying like this is the last time
let's
that they're
see.
gonna don all this kind of thing.
Well, let's see, probably at least all three of them together, but we'll get to that in a bit later. But yeah, but just then, let's see the manifestation of Egon Spencer's ghost comes in and helps Phoebe with her equipment, and
Yeah,
the four,
because Phoebe attacks Gozer from behind,
yeah,
and you see Gozer pushing back, and then Phoebe's like struggling, but then you see Ghost's hands wrap around her and hold the proton back in place too, and there's Egon's ghost helping her steady her proton packet stream.
yeah, and this is where like oh, Ghostbusters crew finally, in a sense, sort of reunited for the big screen, if you will.
Yeah, I
At
nearly
least
cried.
yeah, see the best I can be. I have to admit, I got a bit emotional myself,
Yeah,
even though I'm not
and
really attached to Ghostbusters, because I thought like, oh, this is such a nice way of doing it.
yeah, and then you just see them all come together,
Yeah,
and all the other Ghostbusters are looking at them, and then they finally
yeah,
combine all the streams, and
yeah, yeah. And while Podcast and Trevor are fighting marshmallow ghosts,
yeah, and so the
and
brother has the brilliant idea of instead of attacking Gozer, he shoots the power couplings to help power the trap, which give it that energy boost that it needed to finally activate.
uh huh. Let's see. And then let's see, finally Gozer is captured or destroyed for good from the sounds of from the
Yeah,
looks of things.
well, captured.
Yeah,
Yeah.
captured. Well, you can't really destroy a ghost, I guess, in Ghostbusters.
Hmm.
And so the day is saved, and let's see, and of course, Gruberson and Lucky are freed from like the ghost dog thing. So Trevor tries to accidentally goes to Paul. Let's see, Paul Rudd's first
Yeah.
before getting to
Well,
Lucky.
we get this touchy scene of Egon's ghost smiling at his old coworkers and
Yeah,
friends and college buddies and everything, and they
yeah,
all have this apology, saying we're sorry we didn't believe you,
yeah,
and it was a really touching scene. That he gets to um, hug his granddaughter and hug his daughter,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
he fades, and then it's this beautiful tribute of his ghost fading, and then
yeah.
it looks up at the sky and it says for Harold.
And that ends the movie. Though I wanted to make a
Yeah.
quick let's see mention about how quickly Paul Rudd's character and let's see Phoebe's mother end up talking about how they were both possessed and sort of let's see getting intimate, but they seem to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Showing that okay, because they were like I said earlier, they were kind of into each other. But yeah, but let's see, you get these touching moments between like the Ghostbusters crew and then of course the family members, and finally sort of giving closure for everyone. And of course, like I said, that tribute. And that sort of like ends the film, except for this post-credit scene.
Yeah.
Well, two post-credit scenes.
A little oversimplifying it, but yeah.
Yeah, but for that, though, granted, of course, this is also at the same time you finally hear the original Ghostbusters theme. Who are you going to call as you go back to New York City?
By Ray Parker Jr.
Yeah. And the first what's-he post-credit scene is Bill Murphy's character, who's still in a relationship with like
Dana Barrett, yeah.
yeah,
So
Dana Barrett.
you see Peter Venkman and he's hooked up to the machine, and Dana Barrett's like, "What's on the card?" He goes, it's like just like from the first movie. He's like, "Oh, it's a 5-sided star," and then she's like, "You actually shocked your students?" And he goes, "Just the males, right?" And then she shocks him, and then she goes, "Okay, what's the next one?" "Oh, it's a couple of wavy lines." He goes, "You have these cards marked, don't you?" And he's like, "Yes, yes, I do." And then she's shocked again, which is a nice little scene.
Yeah, and it kind of gives them a taste of their own medicine for doing that to the males, even when they got the cards correct, and
Yeah.
giving excuse to the girls, just even when they got it wrong, just because he wants to hit on them.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's getting his own just desserts and that thing. So
The '80s kids, just
Yeah.
remember, this is the '80s.
yeah, the 80s, Switzy. This humor was considered appropriate back then. Of course, now it's not, but now we make fun of it. But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you won't get jokes like that nowadays. But yeah,
And then we get another end credit scene where we have Janine Melnitz make a return,
yeah,
and she's holding a coin in her hand, and we then cut to this scene that you actually don't see in the original Ghostbusters. It is actually a scene that was cut from the original Ghostbusters movie.
okay,
It was a deleted scene, and they decided to make it canon, which is
Okay.
very rare for something like this to happen, where Janine goes to Egon and says, "I want you to have this coin. It's a lucky item. I want you to take it with you." And then he's like, I don't think I'm gonna need it, or I don't think we'll be around that long." She goes, "Take it anyway. I got another one." So it's this nice little funny, cute scene between Egon and
yeah,
Janine, and
back when they were thinking of building a romance between the two of them.
yeah, and then we get her talking to Winston, or played by Ernie Hudson, and Winston was talking about how the ghost, gave me the tools and gave me the talent.
Yeah, to allow him to raise his family, and he also reveals that he's actually been helping Peter Venkman with the rent and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. Though granted, I'm not sure if let's see. Though I think he implied that he's not letting Peter Venkman know this, just because I don't think he would have taken the charity.
Yeah, but he understands that Ghostbusters got to start, so we then get this wonderful shot of the Ecto One going across the Brooklyn Bridge and pulling into the iconic fire station.
Yeah, which apparently we're told it ended up being turned into a Starbucks. Apparently.
Yeah, which I thought that was weird,
Yeah, but it turns out that was not the case.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Starbucks there now.
Yeah. Oh, the Starbucks there now, but yeah.
Yeah.
Not the actual fire building, my mistake. But yeah. So he ends up, let's say, he's trying to open up again, looking like he wants to make it go back to business now that ghosts have returned. And we see the old Ghostbusters echo with the prison chamber thing, making a beep light, sort of implying like whatever's sealed up in there is going to make a return to the inevitable Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel.
Yeah.
And that ends like the Ghostbusters film.
Yeah. Which I wonder if that's where Slimer is in.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually decide to bring Slimer back in some form. But yeah.
So what do you think?
I have to admit, I thought it was a pretty good film. It definitely felt like a love letter to the original Ghostbusters cast, particularly Egon Spence's actor Harold.
Yeah. The effect they had on him was pretty good. I was
Yeah.
almost convinced.
Yeah. I have to admit, I was a bit surprised by the tone of this film, because the original Ghostbusters was a comedy one, but this one, they seem to make it a bit more a serious matter thing. A serious kind of film. A more character-driven story, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one could argue that Ghostbusters was a comedy horror movie.
Uh-huh.
So, and I think they tried to stay away from more of the horror part of it and made it a like comedy action.
Yeah. Comedy action meant for like perhaps older demographics, really, at least with the jokes, but it ended up becoming popular with kids, so they turned it into a kids franchise. And it's been the case ever since. So
Yeah.
let's see. Now, that's had its success, and of course, Ghostbusters had its success and failures over the years, but yeah.
Yeah.
But eventually, of course, they've come to this movie. And I decided that, let's see, for this one, I guess, given the tone of the subject, given the fact it's mostly dealing with the fact that, let's see, the actor Howard passed away, they decided to make it more of a serious, gritty character-driven story to celebrate his character.
Mm.
And all
It
that
got
stuff.
kind of dark in a few places.
Yeah, I have to
But
admit.
the
particularly
original Ghostbusters was like that too. So
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Particularly with the fact that, let's see, well, mostly just due to the fact the actor did die, they had to, like, they wanted to have him appear in the film from the thing, so they had, like, this stunt double, if you guess you could say, try and portray an older version of him, but never really seeing his face.
yeah.
At least in the beginning of the film, die, and, well, at least portray him and show that, okay, in inverse, he lives a long time until he's, like, killed by, like, one of the two ghosts. One of the two, gatekeeper or, let's see, keymaster. Now, which one killed him, I don't know, but yeah. But either way, so that's that. So I thought it was like a clever way of explaining how he's dead in the Ghostbusters movie first. Go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna just be funny at this one. And what happened when the kids did it, I think is exactly how Egon did it.
Okay.
So, because that's just a funny theory. It doesn't really story break. But
Okay, so you're thinking he did the same sort of trap that they did and all that
yes.
stuff. Let's see. Awkward dad jokes. So yeah.
I mean,
So anyway, so what do you make of the new cast?
I was a little worried. I was really worried when they were talking about using the kids from Stranger Things because I wasn't really much into Stranger Things, and I thought they were just trying to go for a cheap cash grab, you know?
Okay.
And even though Stranger Things did play a part in bringing back Ghostbusters, like the hype for Ghostbusters, so it did play its part in that because they had a lot of Ghostbusters episodes in Stranger Things.
Fair enough.
And that's what had me a little worried. But then I saw they had Paul Rudd in it. I was like, well, I really liked him in Ant-Man, and he was really funny. So I think he'll work great here. You know, I think his comedy is right on board with what you expect from a Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah, let's see. Anyways, after me, I was intrigued by the cast. It seems to be a sort of like hybrid of what they tried to do with the 2016 Ghostbusters cast by making it like a diverse cast, but like half male, half female.
Yeah.
Thing, at least with like the four main kids. Though in many ways, and less controversial casting with Stranger Things actors and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In many ways, when I watched Movie Bob's review kind of thing, it was kind of mentioned. He kind of made a summary of like how It's like how the Democrats chose Clinton, which was controversial for the 2016 election, and Biden. Let's see. Wow. Well, Democrat and Republicans are going to be controversial with one side, but Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, a lot less controversial than Hillary Clinton, and it seemed to work that time, at least U.S. politics wise. But best not to get into that.
This is about Ghostbusters.
So yeah, no, granted.
Try to leave the politics out of this one.
Yeah, but that's
This is what we said when the 2016 came out, but they didn't listen to that either.
Yeah, but then again, movie Bob. But that's movie Bob. Was he making a bad political joke about Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that was just Ritzy. I was just looking at his review earlier, actually. But yeah. So it's like. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, but this movie was really good. I really liked it. My original theory how they were going to do Ghostbusters 3, like they really threw wrenches into my theory. Like every time I thought about something, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be interesting." Because my original theory that it was the Ecto one in a barn. I originally thought because Ray Stantz, his family owned a farm, and it's been in the canon that he took a mortgage on the farm. So I originally thought that this movie was going to be about Ray trying to hold on to the Ghostbuster flame because he is the heart of the Ghostbuster, and everyone else just kind of went off and did their own thing. But considering that Harold Ramis died, it made sense that they had to do it this way.
They decided to do that, which is probably why the cast was, particularly two of the four main young Ghostbusters, Phoebe and Trevor, end up being his grandchildren rather than probably somehow related to Ray, I guess you could say. Am I getting the name right?
Phoebe.
Let's see, Phoebe.
Although now that I think about it, it would have been interesting if her name was Phoebe.
Yeah.
Because Phoebe means sphere.
Yeah. Trevor and Phoebe, let's see, I suppose if perhaps Howard's character didn't die, they probably would be somehow connected to Ramad Ray Stantz, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's see, so yeah. Which I think is probably one of the but I think them being like the grandchildren of Spence, of one of the original Ghostbusters, probably got people to be a bit more accepting of them and all that stuff when the Stranger Things cast. But of course, they also added these two new ones. Lucky as the elder teenage girl kind of thing, love interest for Trevor thing, though. They never go too serious with it and just make a few jokes about it, which I thought was nice.
I just want to add, even though I said we shouldn't really do political, this kind of checked off boxes without forcibly checking off boxes. In many ways, deal about checking off boxes, I should say.
Yeah, in many ways, from what I can tell, this diverse casting is probably one of the few times I've yet to see any people complain about pandering and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. As that ends up, which is unfortunately one of the downsides of the current age of, of the movie Hollywood blockbusters, because usually whenever a diverse cast is announced, you get one side calling, oh, this is just pandering, blah, blah, blah. Whether or not it's true or not, it kind of, happens. But here, I don't think I've seen anyone complain about it.
Yeah.
So it seems like for at least Ghostbusters Afterlife, they found the right balance for it.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I also enjoyed podcast more than I thought I would.
Yeah. But I mean, and it's nothing to do with the race or color or whatever. It was just the way the character is usually written, especially in the way modern stories write these kind of characters, which really surprised me because this was kind of a break from it. I mean, how many TV shows or movies that where it has this annoying little kid in it, and y'all hate the annoying little kid in it.
Yeah.
We all know that one. Indiana Jones fans, you're all gonna say Short Round on this one,
No, I actually like Short Rounds, but
yeah.
But yeah,
everybody, he's the only time, one of the only times. But it makes sense for because they want to try to get the dynamic back of the original. So how Ray's the heart of the Ghostbusters, Egon's the brain, Venkman's the voice, and the Winston was the he explains that one in the movie, but they mentioned all this, and you could see this repeating trend in here where podcast is the heart, link because he already had a paranormal part for it.
Obsession.
Yeah. Uh, Phoebe's the brain. Trevor's the the talent. And
Yeah, they're a lot
Trevor.
more awkward about it
Yeah.
than the charm of like Bill Murray's character. And
Yeah. Or I mean, Trevor could be the mouth too, but
yeah,
he's never really like suave.
yeah,
But y'all know what I'm talking about. It's just like
yeah.
they're
Uh,
repeating the same pattern.
yeah, and Lucky's like the normal one, and if you will, let's see the
Yeah.
average one, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
That pretty skillful and all that stuff. So
She's the talent,
yeah,
and he's
talent.
the mouth.
Yeah.
So
So
talks a lot.
so it sort of works like that. And so yeah, it's like let's see, repeating the same things, but also adding new uniquenesses to them. All
Yeah.
that stuff.
And this is how you do storytelling.
Yeah.
You can do stories of like old franchises and passing of the torch and everything, but you got to do it right. You got to pay respects to the old while transferring it to the new.
And I'd definitely say this is probably one of the few films that has probably done that, for at least for the fans, because let's see, from my understanding, critics are a little bit mixed on the nostalgia. They praise the casting and and I think maybe I get to get the reputation out for the film. Apparently, the film received mixed reviews from critics who praised the performances and Whitman's direction and nostalgic tone, but criticized the screenplay and fan service.
Yeah. Oh, there's too much fan service in it, and it's like.
Well, to be fair, critics often are not fond of fan service, really.
Yeah, but like one of the complaints I saw was it's too hard trying to bank off the nostalgia. Well, that's what 2016 was doing too. I mean, like even with the trailers, they say, oh, you remember the 4 guys in New York? Well, now meet the 4 women and stuff like that, and they showed the firehouse and all this other, and then they try to bank off the nostalgia of the original Ghostbusters right off the bat. The only difference is that this actually did it better.
Fair enough. And that is probably why this film has probably been a lot more successful than I suppose you could say the 2016 one. Because let's see. Now, granted, let's see, for those who are fans of the 2016 films, I am not trying to say you're not wrong for liking it. I'm just probably saying for what Sony tried to do with that film and what they intended, it didn't seem to succeed for what they wanted to do. But it seems like Afterlife has done what they wanted. So
yes.
That's that. So the cast is great, and I do like how. Let's see, I particularly like, and I think Phoebe's definitely like that for me. Probably my favorite out of this new cast is this awkward, smart girl trying to figure everything out and learning that. How she makes sense with her family kind of thing, and learn like, oh, her grandfather was a genius like her and all that stuff, and a Ghostbuster.
Yeah. And there was no like, oh, she's a girl. No, there was nothing like that. Like it's a typical kid learning about something that their grandfather did and taking up the spurs.
Yeah, in many ways, it's like because usually you have like kids admiring their grandparents. Let's see, if they're like, usually for the most part, though granted there may be exceptions. Granted, it depends on the grandparent, I guess. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So it's like quite nice in that, and I think let's see, like you said, it's nice that Trevor was this sort of awkward teen that was still trying to fit in and not just give up straight away and all that stuff.
Yeah, but like these characters actually grew.
Yeah. So let's see now whether or not you can argue Trevor fully succeeded. At the very least, he's made friends with Lucky at least, though. I don't think Lucky's going to be pursuing a relationship with him anytime soon since she learned his age.
Yeah. Well, it's. Mm-hmm. We could talk about that in the sequels.
Yeah. But yeah. So it'll be very interesting. And like I said, podcast was very fun to watch. Let's see. So yeah, and I do like the bit with him at the end with like Ray, where it's revealed that there was a little joke about how my podcast becomes like a big deal during like finds its footing in like the 46th episode, and it's revealed that Ray is
a big fan of the podcast.
Yeah, and said what he said earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, like I said, you see, even the movies pointing out the dynamic. Oh,
yeah.
He has a thing for the paranormal. He's wearing Ray's goggles.
Yeah.
He talks with Ray. He gets covered in marshmallow like Ray does.
Now, granted, if there's ever going to be like spin-off Ghostbuster movies, you could definitely do a comedic duo with those two. I would go pay to see it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And if you think about it, if podcast gets with Phoebe, it could be like a weird fandoms Egon and Ray fantasy.
yeah. But let's not get to shipping. Let's see them just yet, people. Wait till that bit. Wait till their characters are shown to be older in the sequels.
Yeah.
Let's see before making it weird.
I'm just saying there's potential future movie
Yeah.
concepts.
Yeah, but there could potentially be a romance between them in the future. But for now, they're clearly more like best friends kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let's
They're
see.
still just kids, so
Yeah.
I'm
Let's see.
just saying it could be a plot point they'll make in the future, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Anyway.
really surprised though.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar, Oscar doesn't appear in the movie.
Oscar, which one is that?
So in Ghostbusters 2, Dana Barrett had a baby.
Oh, okay.
So, and his name was Oscar.
Okay.
It was just a baby that was trying to be possessed by Vigo the Carpathian. And since this movie takes place like what 20 years, I think, something like that.
Okay.
Like 20 years later, like he would be like probably 17, 18 by now.
Fair enough. I suppose they figured like, okay, well, we want to bring as many as the nostalgic and previous cast as we can. Let's just mostly focus on the four main Ghostbusters with and also maybe like the secretary and let's see, Bill Murray's love interest kind of thing. Because because I think one of the things that some people complain about with the 2016 Ghostbusters is that they brought on a lot of the Ghostbusters cast and they mostly were just random with some of these poor jokes and all that stuff.
And they killed Bill Murray.
Oh yeah, see that was like, ooh, that is regardless of how you feel, that's definitely going to cause a controversy. I mean, look at what happened with Terminator Dark Fate. Now, while I mostly enjoyed the movie, I'm definitely going to say the first 5 minutes will probably piss off diehard Terminator fans. Because it's like you kill the heart of like the first two movies. John Connor.
Successfully killed John Connor. Well, done.
Yeah, it's like the entire purpose of the first two movies dead. But yeah, but Betsy, back to Ghostbusters thing. But yeah,
it could be something they do in the sequel.
Yeah,
because a lot of people were just wondering like, oh, what's canon? Is the video game canon? Is Ghostbusters 2 canon? Did they want to rewrite it? Because there's not a mention of Ghostbusters 2. What there actually was. You just had to look for it. It was kind of Easter eggs. Like you see the devices, you see some things that were from Ghostbusters 2. There's Ray's Occult Bookstore, which is from Ghostbusters 2. So there's references here and there.
Fair enough.
To Ghostbusters 2, and Jason Reitman even backs up this claim that Ghostbusters 2 is canon.
Yeah. So see, because this is like, since this is the third movie, this is like a completion of a trilogy, if you will.
Yes.
Granted,
although the video games are now not canon.
Okay. Which probably will just break the hearts of many Ghostbusters fans, but yeah, who like those games. But yeah. But I suppose it makes sense because I think, you probably don't want the live action being baggage with too much continuity. Now, if there was like a live action show, yeah, you'd see they probably would have made it like sort of canon, but it's not like Star Wars where every movie and TV show where they post Disney buyout, everything is canon and all that stuff. Not like with like pre that where the show, the Clone Wars and the 6 Star Wars films by George Lucas were canon, while the expanded universe was its own separate universe kind of thing. So it's probably much more like, that's probably more of like what Ghostbusters franchise currently is like now, with like all the comics, games, while the movies and possibly maybe future TV shows, if Sony decides to do that, will probably be canon from now on. It's the main canon kind of thing. So yeah. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, what did you make of the ghosts that appeared in here? Well, granted, there's only really one original ghost, I guess you could say. The blue one.
That's probably the only negative aspect about this movie is that you don't see a lot of ghost busting until really the end.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I mean, this is not like a coming of business kind of story.
Yeah,
That's just the end result of this movie. This is more like just explaining more of how they built up to it.
yeah. So it's more of like they just kept the ghosts limited. You get one slime ghost, which I should probably mention. Let's see, it's well the one chomping ghost, which I forgot to mention was how they were able to like escape a prison break kind of thing, I guess. Or
Well,
well, get their
they couldn't get to the equipment that was kept in the space the police station, so they released the metal chomper ghost.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that bit. So yeah, so that ghost was mostly there for mostly for the kids to test out their ghost equipment and then to like break out the thing. But they mostly focused mainly on Gozer, which, granted, there's still not much of his character explored because it's just a good, powerful ghost entity, like "Are you a god?" kind of thing, and Gozer's planning to like destroy the universe thing. But we do get a bit more about more of like the guy who was trying to summon Gozer's plans a bit. Let's see having a shrine here and a shrine at New York kind of thing to cause
it's not like the video game though.
Yeah.
The video game, the whole like idea was then going through the records of the cult.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. So, but heck, you finally got a live action appearance of him. Granted, he's now been killed, but like I said, that's what you probably should expect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's like that. But anyway, I have to admit, let's see. I definitely like the chemistry between Paul Rudd's character and let's see, Carrie's Carly Spangler.
Yeah.
Well, no, I just realized I've been calling Carly Spangler Carrie throughout most of the thing.
Well, it does get confusing.
Yeah, when you have the same names, similar names.
I'm sad that Paul Rudd didn't get a chance to like don
a ghost
in a pack.
Yeah, but it was mostly there for the gatekeeper role, if you will.
Yeah.
Well, keymaster, sorry.
And we'll get the same strap up in the next one.
Yeah, possibly since he's like a Ghostbusters fan. So
yeah.
So yeah, I do like the romance between them too. It's like, let's see, first he's sort of like, let's see, they meet each other as he's going to teach the class kind of thing. Like, oh, I'm the teacher kind of thing, and there's like this awkward joke about I feel sorry for the teacher, like blah 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 and all that stuff. And then I like how he ends up bonding with like Phoebe, sort of being sort of like the father figure. She didn't really would see that the previous dad had abandoned her and all that stuff. And you see the sort of like maybe sort of growing respect between the two, at least mostly more on Paul Rudd's character's end first, when he realizes just how smart Phoebe is and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. So that's sort of like that. Though, granted, of course, Phoebe is not liking the idea of like this guy dating her mom and all that stuff. Which is, to be fair, that's how most kids are like. Whenever you get like a teacher or just some random guy dating their parents.
Yeah.
So that's perfectly actable, and I think the relationship. So I think it was like a kind of we mentioned earlier.
What kind of name is Gruberson?
Yeah, Gruberson. Yeah, that's funny. The romance was at least done enough to make the gatekeeper and keymaster joke a bit more respectable in modern times. Let's see, it's not a joke you would do in modern times, really. But of course, that's part of the Ghostbusters lore when you bring in like a Gozu, so you kind of have to do it. So yeah. So I'm not sure if those two are going to get sort of together in the future, but I'd be up for it and all that stuff.
Yeah, anyway. I'd like to see a sequel with them a little bit older.
Yeah. So that's something like that. Anyway, one thing I kind of like was probably I don't know. What would see one thing I kind of interesting thing I was kind of expecting to happen that didn't really happen in the movie is like when all these town folks calling like the old guy, Spangler, like a crazy old man. Well, granted, at least one of them liked him enough because he kept buying stuff from his shop at least.
Yeah.
I was expecting I was kind of expecting like the police chief to be more like Walter Peck from the first film. be a bit more of a hindrance to like the kids and all that stuff. But he was only like in one scene really.
Yeah, but they could always bring William Atherton back for
Mm-hmm.
like an Afterlife sequel.
But yeah, well, since he's like the father of like Lucky, so that's probably going to have to happen, possibly happen.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I
But
mean,
as
he
it's,
still could have played one if
mm-hmm.
you can still have him play one in the future if
Yeah. Yeah, probably try and prevent Lucky from joining like this new Ghostbusters kind of thing.
exactly.
Let's see. So yeah, but granted, I was kind of expecting him to be a bit more okay. Oh, I was wrong. Let's see, there are ghosts and all that stuff. Oh, the guy wasn't crazy. At least the villager, the townsfolk, starting to understand why Spencer was there and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Which I have to admit. Let's see. So, but yeah, I suppose getting to more like Spengler's character and all that stuff. I think the way they added him as a sort of like ghost, would see the only other franchise that can make force ghosts happen, people. Let's see. I think it was a sort of tasteful way of doing it. Let's see, sort of his likeness. I mean, granted, there's been a debate in Hollywood, and fans and film goers like whether or not you should actually use the likeness of like deceased people and all that stuff to like in the film and all that stuff. I remember that was an argument that a debate that went on with like Rogue One, if you will.
Yeah.
I think what they did here was tasteful. Not to mention the effects have improved much more since back in 2016 when they started doing that.
I mean, as long as you kept the character to their core, I don't think it's a bad idea.
Yeah, which is probably why I'm pretty much fine with like Tarkin and Princess Leia, like in Rogue One thing.
Yeah. Or like, Luke Skywalker and the Mandalorian. It works.
Yeah, it works. So there's that, and it's like, let's see, they wanted like the all four Ghostbusters to appear, and this was the best way they could do it.
Yeah, and then people were mad that this wasn't a sequel to 2016 and everything like that, and it's like, well, this is what we wanted.
Let's see. Well, and let's see whether you like it or not, people. The 2016 Ghostbusters did financially fail at the box office, and we know we know Hollywood, sequels only get made if it's financially successful.
Yeah, that's
for the most part.
Yeah, and so far, Ghostbusters Afterlife's been doing pretty well, all things considering.
Yeah, let's see. It seems to have a smaller budget than most Hollywood films, with a budget of $75 million, and it seems to at least double. The box office has doubled that with a budget of $49.5 million.
Yeah.
So the film is at least broken even, if you will, I believe the saying. So at least enough to be considered a success, or moderate success, I guess, if you will. Though granted that usually I think for a film to be a full-on success, it usually needs to triple the amount of its budget, but I think it's successful enough that they probably will consider doing a sequel.
Yeah. But I hope they don't screw it up.
Let's see.
Jason Reitman did a good job. If they can keep him bringing on for doing a few more, I would be all for it.
Yeah. Granted, I'm not sure if Sony wants to try and make a cinematic universe out of Ghostbusters, if you will. I mean, I'm not sure.
Leave that to the comic books, please.
Yeah, that's sort of more comic books, and I guess you could say sci-fi film series like Star Wars could also make it work. Let's see, it's like, but yeah. So stuff like that. No, at the very least, if you're going to make, let's see, let's suppose spin-off stuff, perhaps maybe do it with television shows, since that allows you to expand characters more.
Yeah.
Let's see. But yeah, so it's like that. So I'd be definitely up for a sequel. But I don't think they'd rush it. Take their time, if you will.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe like 2-3 years or something. Let's see. At least allow people to talk about this movie for a bit, and then wait a bit for a sequel and all that stuff. So granted. And there's definitely potential for like a sequel, because they've hinted one at the end of the post-credit scene. So there's that. Anyway, let's see. So, is there anything else that you liked in this film, out of curiosity? That you want to talk about?
Anything I like in this series, in this movie. I mean, it was just great seeing so much homage to the original Ghostbusters movies. I mean, you have to be a Ghostbusters fan to really see all of the wonderful Easter eggs and the homages to the previous one. So it's great seeing all that again, and but given
Hmm.
a new twist.
Yeah.
There are a few questions I still do have, um,
Hmm.
but I just chalk it up to Egon just figuring something out.
Fair
That
enough.
the reason why I say is that if anybody remembers, like the Ghostbusters in the original, they have to charge their equipment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So um, the Ghost Trap, and they do show that it's out of power in the thing because they attach it to a car battery and try to bring power to it back to life. You know, but the thing is it. The ghost trap kind of probably wouldn't have held the ghost if it ran out of battery power like that.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of a plot, that you kind of have to get over. This is just like my criticism. Like if I had to have some kind of cons to this movie, that would be it. There are some things that, if you know the Ghostbusters lore, doesn't really make that much sense. But
Yeah, it's one of those let's see film franchise where don't think too much about it, otherwise you're gonna.
yeah, you're gonna hurt your brain. So just
Yeah.
just just have fun, enjoy the ride. Like I say, 95% of it is like airtight.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
Um, and people ask questions like, okay, well, the Ecto 1A existed in the Ghostbusters 2, so did Egon revert Ecto 1 back to its original thing? I was kind of stoked at one scene of the movie where Trevor was trying to start Ecto 1 and the wire kind of repairs itself,
Okay.
and now you might say, "Oh, that was Egon helping repair the wire," and I could say that, but in the original Ghostbusters, there was a concept that Ecto One was actually alive,
Okay.
so and had a consciousness because there was a scene where that was cut from the original where a cop came up and put a parking ticket on Ecto One, and Ecto One kind of just blasted it, and
Ah,
the car has like this gun turret on top that kind of looks at the cop and everything. So there was this real concept that Ecto One was alive, is a living.
okay.
It kind of has like a consciousness to it.
I,
So, and I always thought that would have been a nifty homage if Ecto One like repaired itself because it wanted to go back into being a Ghostbuster.
fair enough. So I take it that let's see, did Slime do that at all in the real Ghostbusters cartoon with the whole car thing, or? I know they made Slime a sort of good ghost in the cartoons because they wanted a ghost mascot.
Yeah, and in the Ghostbusters video game, they have experiments of them trying to domesticate Slimer
Okay.
in the video game with somewhat successful, somewhat failing. But
Okay.
I could chalk it up to the PK surge that occurred that basically just made all ghosts go into a frenzy.
Fair enough.
You know,
Hmm.
but yeah, I could see them. Which I'm wondering if they would do in the sequel to Afterlife if they make Slimer like a friend, because they kind of made Slimer a good guy in the second movie because he was a bus driver and he just hung around the firehouse
Uh-huh.
eating Louis Toby's lunch.
Yeah. But yeah, it definitely still does. Yeah, I think they probably will try find probably yes, they do a sequel for this Afterlife Ghostbuster. They probably should try and bring back Slimer back. Heck, even the 2016 Ghostbusters did like bring him back, and for what I thought, they did a funny joke about him with his like group of friends and like a Slimer girlfriend kind of thing, just
Hmm.
causing chaos. I thought that was one of the more clever jokes with that one. Let's just see, but yeah. So yeah, so I'd definitely say that okay, since this movie was like mostly a love letter to let's see, Howard's character. There wasn't too many ghosts to it for being like like Ghostbusters movie. So
No.
see, so I think the next one, I think they probably should try to make a story with a bit more ghosts. But out of curiosity, this one, since this movie was due to the nature of the subject of dealing with like the death of like let's see, Harold and all that stuff. They made this a more serious tone movie. Do you think they should go back to the comedy thing, or do you think they should try and make it more Stranger like thing, kind of like set, kind of like tones and all that stuff from now on when it comes to Ghostbusters?
Oh, so you think they should? Like, are you asking me should they go for like the more kitschy comedy kind of thing, or stick with the darker tone?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I really think they should try to go back to the comedy horror. You know, I mean, let's be honest. Stranger Things was basically the modern version of what you would consider Ghostbusters was back then. You know,
Mhm.
so I think if you had that nice, balance of comedy with the horror, I think you can make a great sequel.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And see, in many ways, it is interesting now you have a franchise that's managed to change its tone throughout the years, yet still be quite a very beloved franchise, because changing the tone of a franchise can be very controversial.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But let's see if they pull it off. But yeah. But at the moment, let's see. From my understanding, there's been no announcements of a sequel just yet. I think, let's see,
Somewhat.
Sony's. Yeah, let's see. So I think. Let's see. Sony at least is waiting to see the reputation of this film and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
and I think you can. I think you can. They'll do it.
Yeah.
Because Jason Reitman has been going on interviews saying that he still has more story ideas for this,
Uh-huh.
and that there's some because people have asked him questions about different elements, like what's canon, what's not, and that kind of stuff, and the um, and all this some of the questions that people have, like what happened. Jason Reitman has gone on record saying that he wants to save some of those answers. He has answers for them, but he wants to save them for the sequels,
Yeah. It's
like being
interesting.
explained in the sequels.
I wonder how many was he thinking he's planning on doing? You think he's going to try and make a trilogy of this Ghostbusters Afterlife thing, or just do a film series every few years now and then? Because
I,
normally, when it comes to Hollywood, it's usually a trilogy, but now again, that's not always the case. So go on.
I I really think that um, that you can make a something of a similar premise of what Extreme Ghostbusters did,
Okay.
where since you have Ernie Hudson back as Winston Zedmore, he because Egon in Extreme Ghostbusters, he was basically the guy that stayed back and he didn't go out busting with the rest of the guys unless he really had to. He was mostly like the HQ.
Okay.
You know, you can have Winston be that.
Fair enough.
You
Be
know,
like the financial backer for them and all that stuff.
be the financial backer, but also be the guy like a mentor. So they all looked
Yeah,
up,
I can see that working.
and he could mention things, and this way you could still have some connection. But and then if you wanted the other characters to make a reappearance, that works great.
Okay.
So you don't have to have them all come back at every single movie. You can have them like maybe Ray comes in. This one, or maybe Ernie Hudson just calls Ray up, asking him a question about something.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Let's
many different things. This is why I think they should bring Oscar in the second one, like him be the guy that walks in, like in the other Ghostbusters, of him like walking in looking for a job.
okay. So, out of curiosity, where would you want someone like Walter Peck to appear from like the first Ghostbusters movie? You know, the Ghostbuster skeptic, if you will, or you think his character was just a one-time villain?
Well, they had him in the game.
Okay.
Yeah, so they had William Atherton be Walter Peck in the game, and he was he was still basically a political job persuasion, but now he was on the Peacock team in the game, or Peacock, the Paranormal Commission Agency, that he calls it. That he was basically in charge of making sure the Ghostbusters were doing their job right, and do all the paperwork with the insurance and stuff like that. That because the new mayor was on a pro Ghostbuster, you know,
Okay.
election. Um, so basically Walter Peck was basically the politics behind the Ghostbusters. He was supposed to be like and even though Walter Peck was still a bad guy, the mayor was basically Like, see, and it works out. See, like you can do your investigations all you want. They continue to do their job. I get votes. It's a win-win for everybody, you know. And eventually, does it causes issues with Walter Peck in the video game? So like eventually he's like, I'm shutting down the Ghostbusters right away, and I don't care what the mayor says, even if I have to lose my job, I don't care, kind of
Oh.
thing.
Yeah, because he seems to personally does not like the Ghostbusters really.
Yeah, I think you can bring William Atherton back and be Walter Peck again, but you have to do it tactfully. I believe. I don't think he should be the bad guy in the film. I think he just should just be like, hell, it would be funny if you made him the mayor.
Okay, that would be interesting. It's like, oh dear, look, let's see the ghost. You could go like one of the Ghostbusters, like, oh dear.
Yeah. So I mean, you can do it. I think you just have to make it be smart about it and not just throw in for uses. I don't think he could be the scapegoat if you want to be like he was in the video game. They all thought that Walter Peck was possessed by somebody to destroy the Ghostbusters, and it turns out he was the red herring. He wasn't the one possessed. It was the mayor who was possessed
Okay.
by the ghost of Evo Shandor, which was an interesting twist. Um, so and he was possessed for like 4 years, by Evo Shandor. So it's just it would be an interesting to play it like that. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. That would be interesting. Then then it's like a homage to those who are fans of the video games.
Yeah, like borrow some elements from the video game if you have to. I think it would be a good idea.
So it's like okay, your games are not canon, but we're still homaging them and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So at least at least you got something out of it, video game fans.
Yeah. But the video game is still pretty good. You just
Yeah.
think of it as a different timeline.
Yeah, a different universe, and who knows? Maybe there'll be more Ghostbusters games now with like the success of this movie.
Yeah.
Whether like this universe, if like the Afterlife universe, or even like Ghostbusters having its own separate universe, or like maybe even the characters from this universe come into like the game universe, but they make different origins and all that stuff. Like instead of like the grandkids not knowing their grandfather, they actually know their grandfather, kind of thing.
Yeah. And for all the people that like 2016, you can like it if you want to, And sure, if you really want a sequel to it, more power to you. And if you get one, more power to you. But don't mess with ours, please. Don't mess with our movies because we do better. I mean,
let's see, and you can still have a multiverse. I mean, it's still got the 2016 lot. Let's see, having like a Ghostbusters cartoon. Who knows? Maybe if Sony might even give you a TV series.
Yeah,
that's your own separate Ghostbusters thing.
And that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do, and go for it. But don't get mad because the other one does better than that one. Which I'm getting tired of seeing. Like, how dare this Ghostbusters do better than the 2016? People just just let it be what it is.
Let's see. So yeah, I suppose that's everything which we see that is to talk about. Let's see the Ghostbusters film, unless there's anything you think we've left out. And what do you think you can have to say?
I don't know. Like, any questions you want to know?
I suppose, fair enough. Okay, let me just think. So, let's see. The next Ghostbusters, you think it'll be entirely back in New York, or you think we'll still have a bit more of this new, like, let's see, town thing? Because, to be fair, most of it's because that's where most of the new cast is living right now, I believe. Or do you think they have to try and explain some plot point of why they're all in New York?
Well, considering the end scene was them going back into the firehouse with Winston, like, funding them, it's definitely going to take place in New York.
Yeah. Do you think all of the cast from all the young cast will appear for the next one, or you think only some of them will?
I think they all will, and I think, and this is where they're probably going to cheat a little bit. This is where I think, because you know how the original, it was the three Ghostbusters, and then they got super busy, and they were looking for hired help.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's how I think Oscar should be.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned that. Let's see earlier.
Yeah,
So,
like do that, but like have them start out, redo the business, get really good at it, and then needing the help. And then
uh-huh.
just mention, my mother Dana Barrett was, my stepdad Peter Venkman. You can call him Oscar Venkman if you want to. That would be interesting. And then you don't have to change the nameplate, but he just said, my mom and dad kind of sent me here, for a summer job or whatever, and just make that joke kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Like, let's see. So there's that. So yeah. So trying to think what else is there to talk about. Let's see. Ghostbusters. So out of curiosity, while there's one. Let's see. While let's see, I do like the Ghostbuster equipment and all that stuff. I do say one thing that I suppose. Let's see. I think the 2016 Ghostbusters kind of has over the I suppose the original timeline Ghostbusters that there's a lot more variety of like equipment to allow a bit more action scenes. Do you kind of want to see some of the 2016 like Ghostbusters gear possibly added into that to make a more variety of Ghostbusting sort of action, if you will?
I don't know if that kind of kitschy level. Like having little blaster proton things and licking the end of it, which is weird, and like having like these ghost gauntlets or whatever there. That's kind of awkward. Like I don't think it should go that far.
Fair enough.
While like you did have these extra technologies, it didn't go like full blown out beyond the means. Like what kind of like ghost gauntlets and everything like that? Like why? So, but and not that New Adventures can't be that. I mean, we got the slime blowers in Ghostbusters 2, which we then get in the video game. They came up with different type of weapons and tools that you could use.
Okay.
So I think like the video game had different they had like a stasis stream, which was like a free like a freeze beam, you could say. Another ability that basically was like homing darts, I guess, so to speak. And then you had the slime blower, which helped clear rooms of, uh, which helped clear like areas that you can't tread because it hurts you, kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And it used for puzzle solving, so you could do something like that. Like you can add more equipment to the proton pack like that.
Fair enough. Let's see. So, when it comes to like, okay. So, when it comes to like Ghostbusters villains, do you think they will try to do more original villains, or do you think they try and go back to some of Ghostbusters lore from like? I doubt they'll bring like the villain from the second film in, but you think they try to do the cartoons or?
Um, Probably a little bit of both.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there is an official Tobin spirit guide thing that you can go through and play with, of many different kind of spirits and ghost gods and everything like that. I mean, there's plenty of things that you can do to play, and there's plenty of lore. So it's not like there's not like you can't have another villain.
Fair enough.
So I think there's plenty to play with. I think, but I do think they should stick with made up stuff
Fair enough.
rather than like modern religious stuff. This is not Indiana Jones. This is Ghostbusters. So you want to
Yeah.
you want to dive more into those weird cultist, weird cultist, weird gods kind of things.
By the way, I've been meaning to ask the whole. Let's see. I mentioned like nostalgia critics like Ghostbusters 2016 review thing where there's like this one of the let's see one of the jokes was like how there's like one sect of the Ghostbusters fandom that treats it like a sacred religion. Does that actually happen in the actual Ghostbusters fandom, or let's see? Because it's like let's see. Is that them trying to be ironic about the joking thing, or I don't know.
What, like a Ghostbusters cult?
Yeah.
Um, it's not like Haruhiism, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, fair enough.
It's just a bunch of fans that love not worshiping like a god or anything, but just like it's just like a Trekkie, you know.
Okay, so it's kind of like a typical Trekker Mandalorian fan.
Yeah, Star Wars fan,
Yeah. Perhaps for some, sometimes takes it a bit too far with the thing, but super passionate about it.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of groups like there's like the New York Ghostbusters, like the Chicago Ghostbusters group that helps a lot of kids and
Oh yeah, I think
kids
I
in need
saw
and
that.
stuff like that.
I think the Chicago ones were actually Nostalgia Critics review thing.
Yeah, so there's plenty of groups like that, and they do a lot of charity work for like kids in hospitals and Christmas and stuff like that. So
Mhm. Fair enough.
I wouldn't mind being Florida's.
Uh-huh. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's any more questions. I'm trying to think of
I don't
what's
think the game is ever going to be canon.
fair enough. All
So
right.
I think that's going to remain just a video game plot that
Yeah,
could be a what if.
yeah. And out of curiosity, okay, speaking of canon, so I think movies will be their own separate timeline from the comics, cartoons, and games and all that stuff.
Hmm.
But if you think they do live action shows, do you think that should be a part of the movie canons, like like with Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and all that stuff are starting to do?
I don't think they should do a live action. I think they
Okay.
should just. I think if they're going to do that, they should just make another cartoon.
Okay.
Because if you try to do a live action, it's probably just going to come off as a Stranger Things ripoff, and that's
Okay.
not really what Ghostbusters should be known for. If you make another cartoon, I could see some potential there.
Yeah. And to be fair, the whole premise of Ghostbusters feels like something you would have in a cartoon anyway.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, fair enough. I think we've just, let's see, probably just about talked about everything. We've talked about what we've liked. Is there anything that you dislike that we haven't mentioned yet? Or
Well, no, there isn't really anything I disliked about it.
fair enough.
Um,
Let's see. So,
I kind of
okay.
wish we had more. I mean,
Okay.
I guess I would. I kind of want more, and mostly because I'm a huge, Ghostbusters fan. Ever since I was a child, it was one number one favorite shows I like to watch.
Okay.
Um, but it just would have been nice, and maybe even like just fun little Easter eggs of nods to other things. Like if you want to make a nod to the 2016 Ghostbusters, go for it. Maybe you want to make a nod to the cartoons. I know the game did it. Like the game had the cartoon PKE meter in the game that wasn't usable, but it was there. So I could see them making like or like failed trap designs from like the cartoons or something like that if they can get away with it.
Uh-huh. Fair enough. So let's see. Let's these my one thing. Okay, since let's see, I ended up. Let's see. As you know, I'm not really a diehard Ghostbusters fan. In fact, I only really saw like the original one, just like a few days before this one.
Hmm.
Would you say this movie? Could you think this movie could appear? Would you recommend it to someone that, let's see, has never seen Ghostbusters before, as like their first Ghostbusters film or not?
Um,
Or do you think you need at least have give like if like only you have to see the first few Ghostbusters films before seeing this one?
I don't think this movie can stand on its own 2 feet.
Okay.
I think you need to watch the first two in order to really get it, because, and that's the problem with sequels that has been a while is that it's hard to make a sequel to something that stands on its own feet where you don't need to watch the first one to get to the second one.
Okay.
That's a very hard thing to pull off, and it's very rare to find that. So I I I mean, I guess Ghostbusters 2 could technically be a good jumping off point, but not really. So you kind of have to start with the first one and get the second one and the third one.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. It's always there's always the struggle with, I suppose, Hollywood sequels.
Yeah.
But luckily, most people have already watched like the original film, so it's like we can keep making sequels.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I can tell you some interesting facts about the movie.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So there's a lot of references to the old ones. There was a Twinkie in the Ecto one.
I believe Twinkies are no longer available in the US, right?
Oh no, they are.
Okay.
Yeah, they weren't for a while, for a little bit, because Hostess went bankrupt, but they're back.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, that's
but
probably would have been good for Tallahassee because it's like if he probably found out Twinkies were discontinued in the non-zombie world, he was like, no.
yeah, but we had the Twinkie, which is a reference to the first movie, and they showed how Egon was like a sweetaholic, essentially.
Okay.
He just loved candy, so that was a nice reference. Um, Phoebe's glasses, the one that she wears in the movie, actually are the same pair that Harold Ramis wore in the first movie.
Ah, okay. So they actually found the prop. The prop from the first one.
Yes. So
That prop must be like worth millions of US dollars now, or at least thousands.
probably thousands. I mean, I think the most like one of the greatest movie props that sold for a lot of money was probably a toss up between the one of the original DeLoreans from Back to the Future and um, Indiana Jones's outfit,
Oh
the
yeah,
whip and the hat.
fair enough. But I'd definitely say probably for the original Star Wars movie, that's probably going to be worth a lot of money because they didn't realize how big a hit that movie was, and so they didn't keep most of the props.
Yeah.
So let's see. I guess that's what happens when you're the first modern blockbuster franchise. I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah. So with so suppose that's just about everything that there is to say about Ghostbusters.
I mean that's about it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's great to see the people. It's great to see the old actors, strap one up one more time.
But yeah.
You know.
But anyway. Now, granted, the first Ghostbusters will probably be the one of the most iconic and one of the ones that has the most impactful legacy. What do you hope the legacy of this Ghostbusters movie will be?
I just really hope the legacy stays true
Mm-hmm.
to where it starts because, um, well, with so many franchises trying to be, how do I want to say this, modernized, you know?
It's had
Uh,
its hits and misses, to be fair. It's had its hits and misses.
yeah,
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
yeah, but you can't just modernize an older concept. You got to keep it true to its core because otherwise, then it's not what it is. I'm sorry if it seems outdated, but that's the charm of it. Ghostbusters is a 1980s sci-fi essentially, and if you try to modernize it, it's like completely modernized. I mean, you can make it keep going in generations, but if you take it away from its core elements, it's not going to hold up. You want the practical effects. You want the kitschy 1980s look from time to time because that's what gave it its iconic look.
Okay.
It's like taking how Fallout.
Um, Fallout. Is that the Fallout? I'm trying to. That's what I think I know that game. Is that one of those crime boss games, right?
No. Fallout's the Bethesda game where it's in a nuclear apocalypse.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Are you referring to the controversial 76 one and all that stuff?
Well, I'm talking about the theme of the how they tried to keep to a 1960s theme.
Okay.
Where technology advanced, but it still had that 1960s feel to it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. If someone came along and took that concept and be like, okay, we're gonna make Fallout like it happened in 2000 instead of 1960s style, then you don't have Fallout. You just have a cheap ripoff.
Okay.
So you can't really modernize Ghostbusters. You can keep it going, but you can't modernize it because then you lose the charm of it.
I'd say fair enough. I mean, one of the only few franchises you can sort of I think that's been successful in modernizing. Would probably be the PS4 Spider-Man game.
Yeah.
It's pretty much putting Spider-Man in the modern world compared to say its comics and all that stuff. But yeah.
Yeah.
But I suppose that'll be for when we decide to do a Spider-Man stream rather than this Ghostbuster stream. So I suppose that's that's everything to be talked about. So overall, what would you give the score for this movie? Out of curiosity,
I give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Oh, 8.5. Fair enough, I suppose.
Yeah.
I could give it a similar score, maybe a
I,
9.
I would give it a 9, but one drawback of the film, it does have a slow burn.
Okay.
It's a very slow burn in the beginning. It doesn't really get good or pick up until about, I'd say about a quarter, maybe a little between a quarter and a halfway through. And then that's when things start to feel like Ghostbusters again. So it has a slow burn, but it's worth it.
Fair enough. And I suppose that's everything now. Thank you for joining me today, James, to
It's my
discuss this
pleasure.
film. And who knows? Let's see. Perhaps we'll discuss some more films in the future. I mean, I do have a particular idea for one, but I probably need to also ask Lucky Chi for it as
Ooh,
well.
I got one more thing to add, actually.
Okay,
Now that I
what?
think about it. I don't know if y'all want to talk about. Did I ever tell you that I had a Ghostbusters fanfic?
No, I believe you have not.
So I actually had a Ghostbusters fanfic. This is how much of a big nerd I am. Of how to explain why the two towers are no longer in New York.
Oh boy, oh boy, that one you have to be definitely very careful on that one.
Yeah, but it would have been interesting.
Fair enough.
I was thinking of like they were built by Ivo Shandor again, and it's basically like a giant tuning fork. Like when you send the right vibration through the two buildings, it would create a portal to the ghost world.
Okay.
And the Ghostbusters had to find a way to reverse it and end up like closing the portal, but it took the towers with it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I thought it sounded tasteful, but
Let's see, fair enough. But that depends on the person and all that stuff, because
yeah, I know it's a big controversy, but
yeah,
you know,
it's a subject matter you have to be very cautious about.
yeah,
I'd say it's only just until like around the time of Rick and Morty first starting that jokes about 9/11 started being, where they started to find tasteful jokes about it. But yeah, but I could be wrong on that.
yeah.
But it's like very careful on the heavy subject matter. It's a very controversial thing. It's one of the reasons why that Spider-Man movie had to remove that trailer with the two towers.
Well, the movie was coming out rather close to the actual incident, so it's not like because it came out in 2001. But I think we reached this point as long as we give enough respect to it. I think you can make it work.
Okay.
And I think it's been long enough.
Fair enough.
It's been 20 years. I know I know it's been a whole tragedy, and I get that, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but I just think it would be an interesting way to
explain it in the Ghostbusters universe, kind of thing.
without actually having like tragedy and stuff like that. Unless you want to do like the Ghostbusters 2 reference in like in the Titanic. Oh look, the Titanic just arrived, and you see all the dead passengers coming off the boat.
Okay.
And I mean, if you did that 20 years after Titanic did, like, I think people would find that distasteful as well. So, but no one really found it distasteful in Ghostbusters 2. So, just saying, let's put things into a little perspective here.
Fair enough, but anyway, before we add any more controversy to this probable stream, thank you for joining me, James. And let's see.
Yep.
And if you ever see a ghost, who are you gonna call?
Not us.
Yeah. Even though I ain't afraid of no ghost. But if there is like a sequel to like Ghostbusters Afterlife, I'll be more than happy for you to join me and all that stuff.
I'll be there.
Yeah, and I believe that is.
I'll be the one to supply the Ghostbusters lore.
Yeah. So and I think that's done. Let's see. For those who've watched the stream and those who managed to watch it to the end, thank you for your time, and hopefully any of our awkward or maybe even some bad jokes have not offended you. But yeah,
and I don't care.
Let's see, and goodbye.